Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, fans of sailing around the world, to the Nacra 17 49er FX and 49er European Championship. It is the final day of action, and this is where it all goes down. It's medal races. It's 20-plus knots of breeze. We're going to see lots of carnage and lots of brilliant sailing, and I, for one, can't wait. I'm Alan Block, joined by Canadian Olympian Ben Riemacher and German Olympian Marcus Bauer. How are you guys doing today? I think some excitement on call. We're going to see a little bit of a different look today out on the water.
Very exciting racing. Like you say, very windy. We've got short races, 10-minute target times, 3 races per fleet, and the very best sailors are all seeking this European title.
Now listen, Marcus, I mean, this is your town. This is, I think, the way your town looks best with the big breeze on. And is this sailable conditions out there?
Well, it's super flat waters. We're right off the shore. It's very gusty, but it's sailable, 15 to 22 knots, I'd say, and it's going to look very exciting, I bet.
We also have a building breeze, I think, through the course of the day. So we're going to first look at 3 races from these Nacra 17s, and it's very tight and very exciting racing from the top to the bottom. And then we're going to look at the women's FX, and then we roll into the men's 49er for the grand finale. So there's not a lot of time to mess around. We're inside 2 minutes to the first start, and then they're going to bang them out, 10-minute races, as Ben said, with just a few minutes in between. So don't go anywhere. Just remember, the one place you can go is sapsailing.com. Pull up that screen on your phone or on your other computer, run it alongside our beautiful faces and these beautiful sailors, and that's the best way to experience it. The sailing analytics can show you all sorts of stuff that a sailor will want to see. What we want to see, though, is how these sailors are handling these conditions, how fast they're going, and how hard they crash.
Just on that note, 1 minute to go to the first start. Again, this is the Nacra 17, first start of 3 with a 10-minute target time. A lot of these sailors have never sailed in such windy conditions, so there's going to be a lot of experimentation going on. Hopefully a little bit of conservatism, too, in their abilities, but once the racing juices kick in, they'll probably end up going full throttle. Now,
this is Lynn and CP, second place, down by about 10 points going into the medal action. These races worth the same. They're not doubled up or anything as the other races, but 10 points, bit of a tough margin, I think, to overcome, especially with just an 8-boat fleet. And right now, Tita and Banti looking very, very good from Italy to take the gold. Ben Saxton, Katie Dabson just behind, and then Fernando Echevarri, he corrected me this morning, and Tara Pacheco in fourth, just a couple points out of the money. So
5 seconds to go here as we approach the start, and the teams are in their final lanes, accelerating, and they're going to get ready to go here.
All right, and you can see it's a little bit easier to handle. We're frozen for a second here. We're having a little bit of issues. There they go. They are off. Sorry about that, folks. It's a little hard to see what's going on with these conditions. You can see it on Sailing Analytics, though. Just a couple of boats right there. Crosses coming up here, and it looks to me like it is Phipps and Boniface in the lead. We're looking at Fernando Echevarri, Tara Pacheco, Rinchover. And let's see, upwind foiling. No, you can see the chop on the boats. Nobody putting the bow down just yet. We saw it working really, really well yesterday, only on one boat. Everyone else, though, sailing fairly conventionally, holding their lanes, going upwind on starboard.
So the start was won by Phipps and Boniface. I think that's fair to say. Closely followed by Tita and Banti.
Tita and Banti only need one good race here to just about lock up the championship. They've sailed so well, really out of nowhere since they're converts to the class, but a very good start for them.
I'll tell you what, I'm watching Lynn and CP here. That's the Danish boat. 2 Danes in this gold medal fleet. They've got the bow down pretty well. They're definitely skimming along the top of the water and moving pretty quickly. Fastest boat in the fleet right now, doing about 11.5 knots upwind. Angles all over the place right now, but a nice even split across the fleet with Echevarri out to the left, and here Christensen on the right. Look at how hard. That's definitely a foiling mode right there. Look, the whole bow of the boat's out of the water. They are absolutely charging, sailing all the way out to the right side. 14 knots now. Look at that. This is the way it's supposed to look. This is what it was designed to do,
almost
right?
Clear of the water, just coming clear sometimes, so they call that skimming and almost foiling. That's great to see. They're going for it. You know, these two have a chance to win their first European title, and there's no reason for them to hold back.
Christian Lübeck on the right-hand side doing really well at the moment. They were in for a right-hand bend. They're going back up now. Left-hand side is also going back up. The wind is shifting back and forth. It's super gusty out there, but it's sailable.
Absolutely sailable on the upwinds. The downwind will be a different test, but I anticipate them being able to sell that as well. We'll probably see quite few maneuvers, as the short course will allow them to do 1 or 2 tacks only to get upwind.
We're having a little bit of a sending issue, a transmission issue with the drone. We'll figure if we can get it sorted. But the fastest boat on the course by far right now is the Dane. The boats are too fast for the drone. That's the problem right now. Oh, boy, we need a bigger drone. So they've tacked for the ley line. It looks like the leaders, at least, no, maybe not the leaders, but the second place in the fleet right now. The only female helm in this medal fleet as well.
Left-hand side is doing really well. They just got lifted. Now they're knocked back down. It's going quite a bit back and forth. Ben, what do you say? Not too much maneuvering possible on this short course, right? You got to decide on a side, don't you?
Even if in this wind strength, that's usually the case anyways, and then with it being short, I don't think they'll have chances to choose their path. They'll have to get locked into what they're doing and then execute as best they can from where they are.
You can see the two boats on the left-hand side. They're already charging into the ley line. They're on a nice lift going up here. So that's Echevarri and Pacheco and Phipps and Boniface leading the charge right there.
Good cross coming up there. You can see right in the middle. That's the Danish team. And you can see Rashleigh Marmon tacking just in front. So we'll try and get some live pictures from the water. But interestingly, look at Echevarri right there. Beautiful ley line and sailing very, very short distance up that beat, going the right way. That's what an Olympic medalist does, don't they?
We saw him accelerate well and win his lane on the start. You do that and you go the right way. It's a pretty good recipe.
I'll tell you what else. Just you can't see it from the screen, but looking at his speed, I'm guessing that Fernando and Tara are pretty close to full foiling there at 12.8 knots, and they are tacking for the top mark. Bit of a dark screen here for us.
Yeah, the forecast today is to have we've had some light rain showers, but with puffs through the morning, and then it should brighten up as the day goes on. So these images should brighten up for you as well back home. We get the zoom in on our leader. That's Phipps and Boniface. I think we zoomed in on. Here we go. Here's our leaders.
And I see no spinnaker yet.
That's a pretty... Oh, going for the jibe set. Okay. Bit surprising. These boats don't jibe set that easily.
The course is slightly skewed. Windward mark was a little bit to the right, so that's, I think, the reason why they jibe. They go for the long leg first.
They're going to have to... Oh, they've set there.
Well, what happened was that the second that she pulled a little bit of tension on that tack line, the whole kite launched itself. So the kite is now sort of flying around. The tack line's not down. Tara's just starting to get it down now.
Great shot here. We can see at the left of the screen, the Brits did a slightly more conservative set and have split now. So we've got a split in the first downwind between the two leaders. Let's see if they go for some foiling or if they keep it in the water. Well, the Brits have definitely gone foiling.
Yeah, it looks to me, and we know Fernando's conservative, one of the older guys and one of the more conventional sailors. He's been doing it for a long time, but you can see they've got that
and a stuff from the Brits in the top of the screen. So they are foiling and going faster, but there's going to be some trade-offs.
Well, that's what this is all about. And right now, Fernando and Tara have their boards raked down. They must, and that's keeping the boat in the water, which is safer but significantly slower. So now they're starting to get it going, but we'll see if they decide to really put the hammer down, or if Tom Phipps and Nicola Boniface there are going to be able to make the pass.
Going for a jibe already. Very short, with a 10-minute race and 2 laps. We're only looking at 5-minute races. 5-minute laps, and the downwinds, of course, being very quick in these fast boats. Getting through the jibes okay, some conservative takedowns. Fernando's going to play the conservative route. We can see the leaders have leapfrogged Echevarri and Pacheco and gained 100 meters, but in terms of places, the Spanish are still in second.
Well, take a look now. Sorry, you can see the Spanish boat there making a cross on a boat behind and moving pretty well. I mean, you can see they don't need that much power here. I mean, especially if you can get up on the foils. But we'll see. Well, you see the conservative route is obviously putting him in the third place.
That's Gimson and Burnett just about to make another pass here. Echevarri and Pacheco do have rights here. Whether the Brits can even really see them through their spinnakers, debatable as well. But it looks like Fernando's going to keep his second place, and off we go.
And by the way, the battle for silver medal is between Echevarri and Christensen Lübeck, and not good news for Echevarri to lose some ground here when it comes to that silver medal.
It's very close. I think it's only 2 points between them, if I remember it right. And I think they just never were able to get in the rhythm on that downwind. And remember, this is the first time that these Nacra 17s have not only competed in a major event, but it's certainly the first time they're doing this super compressed racing. It's going to be a learning curve, and it's exciting to see who's going to get it first. Meanwhile, our regatta leaders here rounding in, I think, 6th place. So that's a big factor, too. They've only got a 10-point lead on Christensen Lübeck.
Tita and Banti is currently in 6th place. What do you say, Ben? Strong wind, not that much their strength, or?
I don't think teams will necessarily have traditional strengths yet. Everyone's learning so much. The Tita and Banti have the least catamaran sailing experience, but since they're in the lead, I guess we can say it doesn't matter that much at these early stages.
But the lead is shriveling up a little bit. 47 points overall on them at the moment. Next placed boat, 55 points, Christian Lübeck. So still open with 2 races to come.
Kind of a cool little side story here. These 2 Danish boats at the on the bottom of your screen, Christensen Lübeck and Alan Norgard and Vibor, they battled for that Olympic spot. And in fact, it was Norgard Vibor who match raced the young female skipper and her crew out of the Olympic trials. So maybe a little bad blood, I don't know, but right now a nice cover.
They're also sailing closer to Denmark, up to the north, the right-hand side of the course. They're sailing straight towards Denmark. Is that the better side? Last upwind, the left-hand side was better, and it does look like it's getting lifted again.
Interesting, because there was no course change, but yet they still went around this side. So
this is the route upwind where you do 1 less tack. So that might fall into their calculations. Also, depending on how their downwinds went, it could have meant 1 less jibe.
But
so I would guess that's high on the priority list for these teams, is to do as few maneuvers as they can.
If we could jump to the 3D graphics, just 2D graphics, just really quickly. A tiny little lift here on the left-hand side. They're going up. Same lift here on the left-hand side. Will it swing back? That will be good news for the Danes going up that beat.
But as you can see from the course, big lift right there on Tom Phipps, Nicola Boniface. Really big lift. I mean, they just went 20 degrees.
It did swing back a little bit just now.
Here we see the 2 teams going for their tacks. So if the run right on top of each other. I think Norgard had a better tack there. And if he can escape to leeward, he'll have clear air. It could be a passing maneuver.
Look at this, that lift that we saw. Look at the puff that's up there. That is a big lifting puff at the top right of your screen. Very dark water, and that's why these 2 Danish boats are falling back. Meanwhile, Tom Phipps, Nicola Boniface looking brilliant. And that'll be good for their points total if they can hang on to this. But the wind all over the place.
Yeah, we see Phipps and Boniface. We saw them make the pass on the downwind, and they're holding a 100-meter lead over Echevarri and Pacheco. As we focus on these 2 Danish teams locked in battle, going very similar speeds on both tacks, so they are training together quite frequently, and obviously have the same feelings about how to sail the boat upwind these days.
You know, Alan told me just a few minutes ago that he agreed with Lynn, his training partner, that these boats really do seem to make more sense with a woman as the helm. You know, the workloads, the weight loads, and where they put their body positioning, and where the biggest weight and the strongest person needs to be. And I think we're going to see more and more of that in the coming years.
It was about a 35-40% clip of female helms in the last 4 years, and again the work rate was quite high then too. I think that's going to make the biggest difference into ultimately getting that to 50-50 will be how many youth female sailors are getting into high aspect ratio or high apparent wind sailing.
Phipps and Boniface have rounded. Echevarri, Pacheco rounded 2nd. They're in 3rd overall at the moment. Gimson and Burnett 5th overall. And Christian Lübeck closing into the windward mark 2nd overall. And the series leaders Tita and Banti in 5th place.
Oh, let's take a look. This is Lynn. This is Christensen Lübeck right here. He's Lübeck going for the hoist. He's got it in. He's got it cleated. And look at the boat moving around. Look at the bowsprit moving around. The sheet is on. The boat is flying. Let's see if they can hang it together. Stay with them. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So you can see the boat doesn't yet. They don't yet have it to where they can fly really stably out of the water. They pop up. They slide down. They pop up. They slide down. But when they come out of the water, the speed jumps 2-3 knots.
And that'll be by choice right now. They could launch the boat out of the water, but they're betting that they can't keep control of it, so they're choosing to keep that leeward hull skimming, and then they can use their body weight to just do the fine adjustments. But it's not that the boat isn't able to foil, it's that the sailors aren't ready for it yet.
Norgard Vibor, one of the fastest boats on the course, to over 21 knots in about 18.6 of breeze, according to our analytics. And slow jibe there for Phipps Boniface, your leader, I believe. It is definitely not easy to keep up with these things. And here comes the pass. Right there we go. Beautiful work. Who is that? Having trouble figuring out who we're looking at.
I think we're looking
here.
at Gimson overtaking Phipps and Boniface, if not the other way around.
Yep, that's right, 201. So Gimson and Burnett just made the pass. Really nice downwind work.
We saw Gimson and Burnett excel in the light air earlier this week, and so the fact they're able to win this first heavier race bodes well for those two.
Wow, that was a beautiful pass too. I think it was a weak jibe from Phipps and Boniface, and Gimson Burnett used it to pounce, and they look pretty smooth right there.
Looking good.
Definitely riding low.
So they're soaking in through the finish line there. They've just gone through that finishing boat and take the win, and then they've got this. We didn't quite see.
Echevarri made the pass as well. So Echevarri, it looks like, got in ahead of Phipps and Boniface.
There's the two Danish boats.
Ooh, I don't know who got it. We got to get our cameraman has to get a little bit sorted out. I think it's a new thing for him as well.
Well, we see our overall leaders just going through the line there. That's Tita and Kibanti. They'll have lost 2 places on their overall lead right now to the second.
2 points.
2 points to the overall on Senholt and Lubeck, meaning the gap is 8 points with 2 races to go. There are 7 points up for grabs on each race, so it's not out of contention yet, but a couple more races like that, and it will be.
I brought up the maximum speeds boats we're doing, but let's look at the overall first.
All right, so Tita and Banty, as we said, lose a little bit. It's 8 points back to Christensen. Lubeck now with 55. Nice work from them. Echevarri and Pacheco are in 58, so moving into 3rd place. They'll be happy with that. Saxton Dabson, not a factor at all in that race. Oh, no.
This is not including the race we've just looked at.
We're having an issue here.
Or maybe the total is, but the display is...
The total is correct.
The total is okay, but we're not including the medal because there's some extra races going on for the non-foiling fleet. So we just got a little bit of coding to do, but the final sum total is correct.
Is correct. So yeah, and they did change. So Saxton Dabson had a really bad race there. They were never even a factor. Gimson and Burnett really doing a beautiful job in that last run to take 1st place in that one and move up. And Phipps Boniface back in 75th, or back with 75. So only the top 8 are on the course right now. Those last 2 are actually not here. They were knocked out. So there's actually our finishes. No?
Yeah, that's the finish order for the race. So I think what we must have been watching was Gimson making a pass on Echevarri.
Okay, fair enough. Sorry about that, folks.
Difficult to see in the low light which color flags are on the sails. But a good race there. Tita, could have really locked up the championship with that title, and he didn't. So he fell back to 6th place. Lucky for him, Sentold and Lubeck, the closest team to him, and also Saxon and Dabson, who are in 3rd, didn't have great races either. So he didn't put himself under as much pressure as he might have. But the points are now only 7 or 8 in between, so he's got to look to have a good race here to wrap it up.
Let's look at the data. Low distance on Phipps and Boniface, and they had some massive lifts that they leveraged on, and you could see that in the SAP sailing analytics, especially on the second up when they were going really high compared to the other boats at one point. But look at the reverse correlation when it comes to speed. The fastest average speeds on the boats that didn't do so well. So almost like going high is the key today.
It might also be that on that first beat we saw the very good lift on port with both Phipps and Echevarri and also Gimson all came from the left side. So while the Danes seem to be going fast, they also didn't catch a lift, and then also probably didn't have the best angle. So we'll see if the trend continues, but there's a chance.
I think in these conditions, it's important that you can hold a lane, and you wanna hold that lane at times by going overly high, just to stay close to a gust and leverage a lift around a gust. So that could be an influence, but it's definitely not in like one of the races yesterday where putting down the paddle was the key to success.
Yeah, and the rules of thumb in terms of sailing in light air, you really want to be the guy to leeward of a pack so that you can not be under any pressure of lee bow. But in the breeze, it's almost the opposite. You really want that one boat as a fixture, especially when it's wavy, in your eyes to keep your lane, because it's very easy to drift off a few degrees and not notice if you're the low boat with so much motion. So for teams like this who won't have done that many hours yet, it's definitely a factor to have to plot where you want to be on the course in relation to the other boats. Keep frames of reference so you don't end up sailing 5 degrees lower and not noticing.
I had a look at the analytics and I dug out the maximum speeds in this regatta, and I'm pretty certain they were in this last race. And one boat that stands out was Nuremberg Viborg, who had a maximum speed of 27 knots.
Oh my!
How long is that ago that was a speed world record? How long is that ago?
Probably the early 90s.
Yeah, not that long ago.
Not that long ago, and that was like a 70-foot trimaran or something with some crazy Frenchman on it, I'm sure.
And now they do that in the Olympic sailing. That's amazing. The other boats were around 23 knots, 24 knots, but 25 knots on Rashleigh Merrimon.
But think about it, Marcus. You know, what we've learned in sailing over the past, let's say, 20 years is that smaller and more efficient tends to be faster, you know, and the fastest boat, one of the fastest boats in the world up until very recently was a Moth.
Yeah,
you know, going 36 knots.
Possibly the fastest is a foiling kite surfer these days.
Yeah,
you know, those guys were at the French World Cup this year, and the one guy just went for a beach run, hit 47 knots with no gear. We didn't really see 47 knots out of the America's Cup boats, and that was just a dude going out in a wavy French day.
Yeah.
The Bathwaite called it the cube square law, where if you size up a boat, the hull increases by the factor, by the, what do you call it in English? The cube, and the sails increase by the square. So obviously boats are hollow, but the rule is in the background. So the bigger you make a boat, the worse the ratio gets between hull and sail. So smaller boats are more efficient in principle.
Well, I mean, that's what we're seeing from these Nacra 17s, and I expect when they're fully developed, these are going to be amongst the fastest boats that anyone sails, you know.
These guys have been doing 30 knots already in training runs, so that'll be longer runs than they're getting here, and 18 upwind. So that 27, let's just keep an eye on that and see if we see higher in the next 2 races.
Yep.
I think our transmitter's having trouble getting through the water.
Yeah, I mean, it's as soon we find that the onboard cameras, when we place them on the front of a surfboard, when the surfboard starts planing and lifts up just 20 centimeters, then we get good reception. When they slow down, the water is like a terrible barrier. And I think they dug it in just now a little bit.
Yeah, they did. They were buried to the mast, actually. Yeah. So, all right, you can see the contrast. Beautiful out here. Little bit of rain starting to come in underneath that big brown cloud you can see. We'll see how that affects our sailors. But we've had a wonderful week of sailing. You can head over right now to 49er Sailing on Facebook or on or Nacra 17 Sailing on Facebook and check out all the week's worth of interview and all that fun stuff.
As we're speaking, we see the rain showers coming in across the boat park, which means it'll be down at the race course by the time the start hits, and the transmission likely not to improve until that's finished.
Yeah, and I think that's the reason. I just went in there and found out the reason the drone's not flying now is because the rain is coming in, and rain tends to knock these drones out of the sky a little bit.
We can expect the boats to start at the boat end because it's just like 20-meter bias on that short line, probably a big difference for the sailors, and majority is going to start there.
Okay, 2 minutes to go. As we can see, looking at 2:01, that's is that Phipps, isn't it? No, that's John Gibson and Anna Burnett. So they seem to have a really nice gear downwind, at least in that last race. They've done well in the breeze, and our 4 British boats in our final 8 here. So pretty nice result for the Team GBR. Yeah, they've changed the name of it now, isn't it? It's the British Sailing Team.
It is the British Sailing Team now. The participation here at this European Championships a little lower than we'll expect later in the quadrennial. Teams were only issued their boats 3.5 weeks ago, so about half the teams opted to stay home and train before coming out for a race. But the British team came in full, all 5 of them, and 4 of them have sailed very well here.
That's a good time to say hello to all of our class members down in Lake Garda, hanging out, going out sailing during the day and watching us at night. So hello, boys and girls. Hope you're having fun.
On board here with Sennholt and Lubeck. This is their chance to really get themselves back in the fight for the European overall title here. They need a very good result here, and they need our leaders, Tita and Banty, to slip back a little bit to put the pressure on for the final race.
They do, and Lynn's told me that she loves sailing in the breeze, and she seemed to have a great time yesterday in slightly less breezy conditions than we're seeing right now, but she also took a swim at the finish, and after passing a boat and getting a nice second place out of it. So a big smile on most of these sailors' faces. A few of them a little bit more nervous. I think Fernando Echevarri, one of the more conservative guys out there, and now 25 seconds to go here. Everyone's sliding into their position. Christensen and Lubeck have found their spot. They've got Tita and Banty just to windward and a British boat to leeward and trying to hold spot. You can see Tita and Banty rolling down. 15 seconds to go. No, that's a British boat there.
Look at those mainsails flap. The breeze is definitely on ahead of this puff.
Looks like Tita and Banty kind of trying to work the boat end, maybe going to go for an early tack and come out to the right. Not quite sure yet, but it looks like it is...
Sennholt and Lubeck off the pin, I'd say.
Echevarri right there. Echevarri's launched. Look at him.
But he dug it in just now.
Yeah, he did. He put the bow down. So he looked really good there for a minute, but then had a little trouble.
Gimson and Burnett were launching off the line.
So they're looking back from... You can see that the Italians just to windward. That's the number 1 and the number 2 boats in the fleet right now. But
crew's having to work very hard here to get the sails into the exact configuration. It's a very narrow band to keep your mode in sailing going, so these guys have to go from everything sheet out to get everything tuned in for this run, and that's why you can see so much work from our crew on board here, CP Lubeck, as he tries to get the boat in rhythm so they can get up and skimming.
I think you're now understanding why we do these 10-minute races, because much longer than that, these guys are destroyed. I mean, it's 10 minutes at 170, 180 beats per minute. It's not messing around there. 303 is Tom Phipps. Won that last race and sending it out to the right side here, followed by 299, which is Ben Saxton.
Yeah, very interesting. Both those teams did well going to the left side of the course in the last race, but they've changed their tactics for this race as the Danes slipped over sides too.
Watch the tack.
And here we have him currently in the lead on the right-hand side. That's Phipps and Boniface just dropped to second. Left-hand side is doing well. Big lift here. Just you can see what the wind is doing to those boats. Big shifts happening out there on the race course right now.
I think it's a little of everything. It shifts, and it's a lot of differences in pressure as well. But just looking from our perch, I've got 10 different shades of black and blue and everything else on the water. Oh, there it goes.
Leave out from Sennholt and Lubeck,
Wow.
but looks like they're going to get rolled. That was GBR 299. That was Ben Saxton and Katie Dabson went for the tack and put the Danes under some serious pressure there. They did get their tack across. Actually, got Snorgard, and with Saxon there wheeling, actually Norgard's been able to hold his lane.
Yeah, that was actually really nice. You never expect those lee bows to work in these cats, but it actually worked there because the British boat got caught out a little bit up on their foils.
Right-hand side winning at the moment. They're being lifted. They're in a nice gust here, heading towards the windward mark, almost on ley line.
I'm all about this stuff right here. Up in front of this group is...
Should be Phipps, I think.
Is that Phipps?
It's Phipps Boniface in the overall lead at the moment.
So, obviously, Tom and Nicola showing that they have no trouble in the breeze. But you can see hull up. And, again, if they're going to be foiling, you expect the boats to start flattening out and going faster and going lower. At the moment, most of them staying up on one hull, sailing conventionally, maybe with some neutral rake, trying to keep the boat in the water and under control.
Boats converging right now. Are these boats on ley line, or do they have to put in another tack? That's a crucial question. The boat low here, I think that's Phipps Boniface. They definitely have to put in another tack. But
That's
will
the
the boats on
top
top make it? That will be a crucial advantage for them.
And we see some boats actually getting across and some other boats ducking. It's going to be really difficult for Phipps Boniface if we can try and get if they can get their 2 tacks in here.
No drone out on the water at the moment, so we're running out of images. It is winning.
Our camera boat can't keep up.
So let's zoom in who's rounding the window mark first.
Look at that. Nice job there. It looks like Christensen got in on Phipps. Nice work. She might be leading right now. I think she is.
It's Nuremberg in the lead, Saxton Dobson in second, and Christian Lübeck in third.
Look at the chasing pack. Stay with them. Stay with them.
There's going to be a lot of pressure on this downwind here. As, the fleet's much closer together in this rounding than they were in the first race. Actually, how fast and how far you push it in this first downwind is going to matter more than the last race, so the teams will be more tempted to try and foil as we see them go for an early jibe.
Gibson Burnett had a really nice jibe. Let's see how Christensen Lübeck's go. I think they lost the tack line in that jibe. Yep. And the kite's wrapping around. Not good for the young Danish skipper, as the British boats here working on this side. Phipps Boniface and Gimson, I think. No, sorry. Saxton Dabson had a nice jibe, and it looks like they're nearly ahead, trying to go for the roll.
I'm really surprised how far forward these crews can position themselves.
That's to help them keep the hulls attached to the water there. So it's mostly the foil angle doing it, and then the crews can move all up and down, and there's so much stability generated by those foils front and back that they can move around for fine tune.
See the medals in the overall live leaderboard. Sorry, in the live leaderboard, the overall scores attached in the back: silver medal, gold medal, and bronze medal. Gold still goes to Tita and Banti. Christian Lübeck currently in silver medal position. Let me look.
I think we're on board here with Echevarri. Is that right?
A lot of.
No, sorry, back with Christian Lübeck. So, yeah, they had to take that kite down, I think. Maybe.
Look how many boats are just to leeward of them. Oh, and they've gone around the mark there. Okay.
Yeah, so they took their kite down when they had that issue, and what they did is they lost the tack line out of the cleat. So that could be a really bad issue. What is that up there? Is that?
That's the medals. So
no, I mean there's a little blurb up at the corner there on the shroud.
It looked like a spinnaker, but it clearly isn't. So maybe a bit of tape.
And maybe the tape, that makes sense with the wide angle here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a shame because Christensen and Lübeck really snuck in there, got ahead of almost everyone except for their countrymen, and then blew it on that jibe.
Tita and Banti in these positions could be wrapping up the title right here. They only need to have a 7-point advantage at the end of this race to win the championship. Sorry, an 8-point advantage with the tiebreak. And with them in third place here, Christensen and Lübeck behind them, that would be enough to win the European championship.
They currently have a 9-point lead, so this could be the deciding moment for the championship.
As we see Saxton and Dabson go for their tack.
And even if they close it out, it's still going to be a nice battle here for the silver and the bronze. But looking
only 3 points between silver and bronze as we stand on the water.
Big puff on the water, about to hit the sails there. And you can see pretty well behaved there. Obviously not going for any foiling at all, just going for a very high feathering mode with keep it in control. You can do that in the flat water. You can just feather really high and sail like an A-cat. But Phipps and Boniface have dropped back quite a bit there.
There is some talk about the teams.
I think our cameraman fell over. It's not easy. Big duck
Leading
there.
boats converging right there.
That's Christensen
going behind.
Okay.
Still in second place, but if he can hold this to the finish, he'll be winning this regatta.
He needs 2 boats in between him and 1 boat in between him and.
He's got a 9-point lead at the moment in the overall scores over Christian Lübeck.
Yeah, 8 points.
Lying in
8 points is
place.
enough to wrap up the championship because there can only be a 7-point differential in the one race. So with 9-point gap, he'll win it.
I'll tell you what, the British boats coming in from the right, especially Phipps Boniface, doing 16 knots. So we talk about using the foils as a mode, and when they get up to the top mark in the really flat water, they're putting the bow down, going 15, 16 knots, the highest upwind speeds we've seen already, and absolutely blazing. And both British boats did that. And right now it is Phipps Boniface in second, having overhauled a couple boats with that move, and 299, which is Saxton Dabson, the Ben Saxton, the Rio Olympic sailor.
Full on survival mode here on that bearaway from Christensen and Lubeck as they work to get the bow down past 90 degrees and then get the spinnaker up. This is the chance for them to send it. They need to make a couple passes here. We don't see Tita and Banty on our overall leaderboard, though. So they're right there. So they're in the game.
And they're taking it easy. That's what they're doing. They're taking it easy. And the only way they could lose a medal right now is if they flip over and break something and can't sail these last two races, right? But so that's what I would do if I was them, just take it easy.
But they are on 52 points now, and Christian Lubeck has 59, so he's got to be careful.
Meanwhile, Saxton, Dabson are blazing down the course here. And really doing a nice job. I mean, these British sailors, when the breeze comes up, they seem to really eat it.
Christian Lubeck has jibed out in the middle of the course. If he can overtake one more boat, he's still in contention to win the gold in the last race.
At 7 points, he's still in contention because of first versus eighth, and the tiebreak goes to whoever wins the last race. So with 7 points, it's still a contest. And
Tita and Banty currently in dirty air. We can see in the SAP Sailing Analytics in a sticky spot. But one more jibe for sure for Christensen and Lubeck.
All right, Ben Saxton, Katie Dabson on the final 50 meters to the finish. They will cross the line. It's Brits first in the first two medal races of the day on our final day of the Nacra 17 European Championship, the first ever European Championship under foils. And it seems like they're working pretty well when they want to use them.
And it's going to be a really close finish. Sorry to interrupt, but they're going to come in now. It's going to be super close.
Oh, wow. Two Danes, Italy, two Brits. And it looks like it was Echevarri who came over in second place. Norregard, V-board just ahead of Christensen Lubeck.
And the scores are still adjusting in the Sailing Analytics. And it's 54 for Tita and Banty, 53.
Just changed to 53.
53 to 58. That means it's still open for grabs.
That's right. Only a 5-point gap. That means if Tita and Banty, slip back and Chris and CP and Lynn have a good race, the European Championship is still on the line here.
And it's even still on the line for Echevarri. So it's Italy, Denmark, or Spain can still win this.
That's right.
And we didn't even need to put double points on the board, See? Look at how good that is. It's working, Ben. It's working.
Very close racing.
Lovely.
The teams, you can tell they're being a little conservative, but they have to be because anytime they try and push it that hard in this much wind, they end up falling off. So a very difficult choice here between all these teams. How hard can they push? When to back off? What are their competitors going to do? It's setting up wonderfully.
And listen, with 8 boats in 2 races in 20 to 25 knots, we haven't seen a single capsize or a single crash yet. So I'm pretty happy with their conservatism.
Yeah, these are very experienced sailors. So one of the best skills of a sailor is knowing when to push and when to go back. So we're seeing some of the best at it. But a finish like that, there'll be some teams wishing they'd gone for it a little more. It only would have taken a few more boat lengths to get another 3 or 4 points off your score.
If we can get the analytics up from the top boats, let's see if we can learn something from that. So, again, just like the race before, we see this pattern in speed where it's reverse correlation. The faster you go, the worse you do.
This is a fascinating graph right here. So lots of distance from Saxon Dabson, lots of maneuvers from Saxon Dabson, not great speed.
And they still won. They still won. So apparently, the speed differences are not that huge. From first to second, so 0.4 knots.
But that was a lot of extra distance.
Yeah,
almost
definitely.
500, 400 meters difference on the second place boat.
Echevarri didn't cover a whole lot distance. Yeah.
I mean, and I think what we've seen from Echevarri is he's sailing high upwind and low downwind and sort of that survival mode a little bit. And he's just a brilliant sailor, too. He tends to go the right way, which helps.
What surprises me, though, is the difference in distance from first to second, 400 meters on that 5.5 kilometer course. That's a lot.
Can that count an error in any ways with the wind speed up or with the choppiness, or is that pretty accurate? Pretty reliable.
Well, the trackers are accurate down to 1.5 meters, I'd say. So I don't think that
that does surprise me, though. A 400-meter difference over a 10-minute race is an awful lot. We were hoping to get the drone up for the next race here, but it's now raining harder than it has been all day. So we're going to have another race to show you using just the sideline camera, the onboard cameras, and the analytics. But
And Jen, you say you're surprised about that distance, and maybe the data's not accurate, maybe it is, but remember, we had 740 meters extra in a 20-minute race yesterday, and that was the winner. So, although he was quite a bit faster than the rest.
The 49er FX fleet has left the harbor. They'll be starting with us at 1 o'clock local time in Germany, and then we'll finish off with the 49er fleet. They'll be aiming for a 2 o'clock start here in Germany. But it's one more race here of the Nacra 17 European Championship, the first ever European Championship under foil, and we've got 3 boats that can still win this title. A lot depends on how well Tita and Banty can sail this race. They have the European Championship in their hands. All they need to do is finish in the top 4, and they've got it wrapped up. But there's a lot of pressure.
Ignore that the results are not displayed in the last 2 columns. They are there, but the results are accurate.
So just that final column is the one that we're looking at
And
here.
as we look at that final column, we can see that a couple of points or a couple of places have changed since our analytics looked compared to what the race committee has recorded, and indeed only one team can now win this. Only 2 teams can win this. Tita and Banty. The only way they can lose it is if they come last in this race and Christensen and Lubeck win the race. That's the only combination.
But we also know that the podium is going to be decided between the top 4. Gimson and Burnett are out of the podium. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, like they are. So the podium is going to be decided between Italy, Denmark, Spain, and Great Britain.
And it's not going to be tough for any one of those teams to get up into second place. So very, very exciting. Will we see some match racing or not? You can't match race 2 boats. You can only match race 1. So I would expect not. But right now, you got to put your money on Saxton Dabson a little bit. You know, they seem to have a handle on this big breeze.
Between Christensen Lubeck and Echevarri Pacheco, it's who beats who. Because whoever crosses the line first in the last race will win any tiebreak. So for them, it's who beats who. For Saxon and Dabson, they've got to put a couple points between, depending on how on which boat we're talking about here. So, but all 3 boats with a very realistic chance at the silver or the bronze. And like we say, only the Danes, Christensen and Lubeck, with a small chance at the overall title.
So Echevarri and Pacheco need to beat Christensen and Lubeck, and Tita and Banty needs to come last if they should lose the gold medal.
That's right.
And Saxton has to win and hope that he can put a couple boats between him and the other teams.
Yeah, so 4 teams here, all with lots to play for. And to be honest, all the teams here will be looking to improve their overall scores and positions. But in terms of the podium, that's the fight here.
And you can see why we don't have our interview boat going alongside, because not even the coach boats are going alongside in this stuff. And I hesitate to even think about what it's going to be like when you get into, out in Porto, or wherever you're going to be with 4-foot waves. And
now we have the final corrected scores.
Oh, good. Nice job there, studio booth.
Yeah, we can see.
But the scores are the same. We just can see the last 2 columns now.
Yeah, the
quick fix. Good job.
There was Saxton Dabson there, pulling it out, and Echevarri really sailed a smart race that time to get second. That was a tough race to get second, sailing the modes he was sailing. But I think the conservative route at this point in the development of the boat and in this wind speed seems to be a pretty good one.
Looking at that leaderboard, it's pretty safe to say none of them have a complete handle on what's going on. Everyone's all over the place. So it's really about seizing the moment. They all have the skills to do this. And one more race in the championship can mean a few more places or even a medal here.
And in just we've got a world championship coming up in this fleet in how much time?
Yeah, 4 weeks from now, we'll be in La Grande Motte in France for the first ever Nacra 17 foiling world championship. And we expect to see all the boats there, 60-boat, 50-boat fleet, including the covert training down in Lake Garda. And, of course, all these guys who decided the best way to crystallize their skills was under the pressure of a race. So that'll be the first chance we have to see if Billy Besson and Marie Rioux can defend their world titles. No one else in Nacra 17 has ever won a world title. They've won all 4 in a row.
4 in a row, wow. And then folded at the Olympics.
I think that's a little harsh. There was a serious back issues going on for Billy Besson at that. There were reports of
his
him
back
being
folded.
wheeled.
How's that?
His back did fold. Whether the mental folding happened or not is not really for us to say. But he'll be ambitious to get back on the top like he's always been. And no doubt they're training hard in their home waters. That's the club that the Nacra 17s from France all train from.
The other thing to keep in mind is that for maybe some of the first times in Olympic sailing history, injuries in some of these classes are a real issue. Just like in sports that are maybe more mainstream or maybe 10 billion people watch. But injuries an issue, fitness a huge issue. It's a major portion of these guys' regime. You can't just get on a boat and go sailing like you could back in the 70s or the 80s or the 90s even, And the first it was the Niner, now these boats, and you just have to be in perfect shape or you're going to start tearing things up, and that's what happens. It's a great time to talk about time. And I don't know if you guys can turn this little camera on right in front of me. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. I want to show you my beautiful watch. But you got one too? Show it up. Marcus, where's yours?
I still don't have one, Ben. You said
It's
you
in the
bring me
mail.
one
It's in
today.
the mail.
It's in the mail. Listen, guys, these are really nice. It's extremely exciting to have Spinnaker Watches as our official timekeeping partner. It's great to have a company that's making stuff specifically for racers. It's got countdown timers. This is the special edition 49er watch, and we want you guys to head over to spinnaker-watches.com. Pick one up for you or your favorite crew or your favorite skipper, and use Live 25 in the checkout code to get full 25% off. Let's have a better look at Spinnaker watches. It really is a great looking watch, and please be sure to check them out. We're also giving away 2 more gift certificates for most of a watch. I think these watches quite of a great value for the quality that they give, but head over to Nacra 17 on Facebook or 49er Sailing on Facebook. Post your picture of you and your family watching this feed, and you have a chance to win a $200 gift certificate for a Spinnaker watch with the hashtag SpinnakerWatches49er. The rain is coming down in earnest now. I don't know if you can see it, but I'm starting to get quite wet, as is my computer. Oh, well, it's not the first time. But it's going to be, maybe that's what they're waiting for, is this cloud to go through before they set the course again. That's why we're in a slight delay. It's not the easiest thing to deal with, all the rain, but I'll keep the rain, and as long as it brings the wind every single time. We've had a lot of sun here in Kiel this week. It's been a gorgeous week of sailing, with thanks to everybody at the Kiel Yacht Club, and the folks in Hamburg have come down to help us, and Felix and his team and all the volunteers doing an unbelievable job here. So thank you to all of them and all of you for continuing to watch us. Right now, you can head over to either that 49er Sailing or Nacra 17 Sailing Facebook page and catch up on all the interviews we've done this morning. Yesterday, the live show from this morning, we talked to a bunch of really interesting sailors on the dock, and that's always fun to check out. Great photos from Pedro Martinez and Tomas from Sailing Energy, and it's really... It's amazing how much beautiful scenery, how many beautiful people, all the great action that these fleets produce. The content that flows from this group of sailors is just uncanny.
They're all passionate people living their dream and working for what they believe in every day of their life, and it's an inspiring group to be amongst and to listen to and to learn from. I think they're also having a lot of fun, frankly. The 3 fleets together, everyone able to travel together, learn how to sail fast together, enjoy company. And tonight we've got a big party that one of the local Olympic German sailors has organized for us. And that's just the spirit of the fleet, Go out and race hard against each other all week, and then go enjoy each other's company for the rest of the time.
Is this party open to the public?
This party is not open to the public.
Put it on Facebook now.
The only way to join in is to come and race with us. And one thing I was thinking about, Marcus, though, is you were right at the pioneering edge of the 49er days, and a day like this would have really intimidated us back then. Thinking back to those first years of sailing, like, what are your memories of trying to figure out a new boat, a new extreme boat?
Well, at the beginning was really that a lot of people were running around arguing that you can't sail this boat without a ratchet block in the middle, and you can't sail it at all in these conditions. And actually, in the early days, it was dangerous, and there were even cases where people drowned. It was quite dangerous, but then people learned to sail it. They learned the safety routines, and people got better and better, and the boat slightly adapted. Spinnakers changed a little bit. The rigs got lighter over the years, and it's a well controllable boat now.
But what about your feelings going out on a windy day when you knew you might not have the skills to survive?
I was always scared. I'm not pretending. I was always scared, but I also enjoyed it. Coming back was nice. It was like a really tough slope that you went down.
I was just thinking, it kind of sounds like that. You look back up at the slope.
I remember capsizes where I pitch poled and I fell on my back on the flat water and I lost my breath because it was like... It felt so hard, but yeah, it's enjoyable if you manage the challenge. It was a beast to tackle, and at some point I realized I'm stronger than the boat. The boat doesn't throw me off. I keep the boat under control, and that's what I tell young kids when they learn to sail the boat. The boat's not controlling you. You're controlling the boat.
But it doesn't feel like that at the beginning, does it?
It doesn't. It doesn't.
You know
it feels like a wild bull.
When you're 8 meters in the air, flying on your trapeze, wrapping around the bow of the boat, it just doesn't feel that controllable then.
And it's hard to know exactly what these sailors are feeling right now because it's not entirely like it was when you were starting. The sailors that we're looking at right now have all sailed the Nacra 17 for a number of times, or a boat very similar like the 49er. So it's not that raw bit of unknown, but there's definitely going to be an element in all these sailors today of the unknown.
The 49er came up in the late 90s, and in Europe, the sort of development, the skiff class development had no precedent in Europe. A little bit in the UK, where people who were in contact with Australia, they sort of imported 14-foot skiffs, but the whole development had taken place in Australia, which was a different world in the 80s and 90s still, you know? No internet, no Skype. You would send letters on this blue paper, which was extra light. And you know, it was like boats from a different planet. And when we started sailing it, it was a big challenge. We didn't know how the maneuvers worked, literally. How do you do jibe in this boat? I don't know. Do you run around like this, from front of the mast, back of the mast? What do you do? And that was fun. It was fun developing all that.
That's one of the things that people don't quite understand when you see how well Australians and Kiwis do in the Olympics and the America's Cup and the Moth. People don't realize that when we were all messing around on Flying Dutchman, they had 18-foot skiffs that were 18-foot wide with an 18-foot long bowsprit. You know, and they were sailing them with 3 trapezes, and then they had 12-foot skiffs with a 28-foot mast and 4 different rigs. And, I mean, they were doing that when we were sort of in the Stone Ages, and they had a head start. It's much like when we talk about women in these super high-performance categories. You know, it's only been a few years that women have the availability to get into skiffs and fast cats. Yeah, tornadoes and stuff, but that's different, you know, from what we're at now. And it's all building up, and we're starting to catch up to those Australians and those Kiwis. I mean, there's always going to be standouts, and obviously, you know, other people can win in any class. But as a rule, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats, and I think the 49er and FX have proven they've lifted all boats and all sailors and gotten their sailors into the very top positions in the world, and the Nacra 17 now following suit.
It was only 2012 that the women's options at the Olympics were very standard boats, and now we can see it's almost gone the complete other way. Women have fantastic options to go fast in the FX by themselves. If they want to sail with a man, they can join in the Nacra 17. So only 5 years ago, women really didn't have options, and now they got tons of options, and they can go and do traditional sailing, or they can go jump in these classes.
I think the FX came in 4 years too late. It should have been called up 4 years earlier. I was so sad when that happened, because the question you asked me, you know, those early days, I experienced them, and when they decided to stick with the 470 and not get the, back then it was, what class was it? A double
29 or double X, different configuration.
It would have been good anyway, and I thought it was lost 4 years, and you could see it. 4 years later, the girls went in, they were excited, a completely new class emerged, and
the energy from that fleet's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, we are getting inside 4 minutes to our final medal race of the day for the Nacra 17, as you saw before. Maybe we'll have a look at that leaderboard here again real quick.
Let's remind ourselves what we're in for.
But it's not over yet for any of the medal positions, certainly not for silver and bronze. The gold is going to have a hard time. Rugi Tita and Katrina Banti are going to have to fall off their boat, or at least come in last to lose the gold with a 7-point lead. But it is Lynn Christensen and CP Lubeck sitting in the catbird seat for second place. However, Fernando Echevarri and Tara Pacheco have sailed really well all regatta long. They've been in the lead for 2 or 3 days. They've got a 3-2 already today, and they've shown that they can sail conservatively, sail smart, and sail the right way, and do quite well today. And they only need to beat Lynn and CP over the line. So they could get into the silver position pretty easily. Ben Saxton and Dabson, if they have another bullet performance, they might very well find themselves in silver.
All those 4 teams will be aware of now what's going on. The coaches will have got the scores for them, so they'll be going into this race with their eyes wide open. Of course, there is a chance for an extra point if a team breaks down and can't finish for some reason, so people can factor that in as they go along. But really, this race, pressure is on Tita and Banti. The 2 of them have never won a European Championship, but again, all they need to do is not finish last in this race. We should expect from them a relatively conservative race. If they do get ahead of a couple teams, they should just be matching those teams, sailing around the course in the same area, and controlling their fate in that way. And assuming that can happen, they would we'll focus in on the fight for the silver and bronze medal, which is just about as close as it could be.
Let me talk you through the course setup. There's quite a strong bias at the moment at the boat end, and the windward mark is laid a little bit to the left, so we're going to have the long leg first getting out of the start. So I expect boats to battle really, really hard for that starting position at the boat.
And also, you'd expect them to try and take the long tack first and try and hold on starboard to get squared and get away. So having a good start here seems like it'll be an important part of this race.
It's been pretty important, but it hasn't been essential. We've seen quite a bit of passing, especially that first half of the downwind leg on the jibe. I think is the best passing point. You know, it's the home straight. And if this is Formula One race, you know, you wait for the jibe, and then you see the slightest mistake, and it's not easy to jibe these boats yet, and sail through cleanly. So
these guys will be able to sail this boat upwind as fast as they can. They're not holding back anything on the upwind. They're going for it. The downwind is a different story. We can see teams struggling with their maneuvers, struggling with their routines still as the boat bucks them, and they don't quite have their settings and their confidence where it needs to be. So we'll see regular upwinds and mad scrambles on the downwind.
3, 2, 1.
Excellent. We can finally hear our radio. It seems like the rain is clearing out. Our transmissions are getting a little bit better. Yeah, just the last bit of rain on the course. You can see it right there. It's going to blow through here very quickly, and then maybe we can send up our little buzzbird. So how does
the
it
light
look?
at the end of the tunnel? 37 seconds to go. It's not such a crowded line that the teams are too worried about getting a spot. It's more a matter of time and distance. They'll have checked their transits, checked their approaches, and mostly in this amount of breeze is actually checking your coordination, because if you sheet in at the wrong rate compared to the steering and the trapezing, then you can easily heel yourself over, and if you don't get it in the right sequence, then you don't accelerate enough to keep up with your competitors.
I'll tell you what, too.
Only 7 seconds to go.
We apologize for crossing the line. We're looking. They're going to go upwind right to left. We got better light now, but it is Dane. Is that Alan Norgard there? There we go. Look at Fernando Spain nailing the pin end start. Great work from Fernando. He wants to win this one and get that silver medal, or maybe even a gold. Beautiful start. He could not have timed that better. Full speed, and look at him punting away on the pin, and also kind of holding the other boats out from foiling as well. Look at flattening it out now.
And the wind had swung back, so the line was much squarer than I anticipated a minute before the start.
We see the only team that mathematically can win the gold, the European title here, Lynn and Christian, they tacked out right, so they didn't have the best start, and they tacked early. They're going to have to throw their cards into hitting the right side. Meanwhile, Tita and Banty are in last place.
Terrible start. Oh, God.
Exactly what they didn't want to happen, except for the fact that Christensen and Lubeck are in second last place. But they've split from the fleet, so anything's possible.
Tita Banty had a really bad tack in the last sort of 20 seconds, could not get the boat going, and right now this is the only place that they cannot afford to be. What Christensen and Lubeck are doing is putting the bow down. They're sailing away from the fleet. They're saying, screw the shifts. We're going to the corner, and we're going to rumble. And that is about as bold a gamble as you could make, and they're making it at 11.3 knots on port, going for their tack. We're going to see him come back into the fleet here, whereas Fernando Echevarri putting the bow down as well on his foils before that tack at 12.5 knots, and now going for his ley line. So,
and we see Saxon and Dabson also trying to get in the medal podium. They're leading mathematically here with Echevarri. So this is a battle for either a bronze or a silver medal
this
here,
is so
boat on boat.
Far left, far right, all coming together, and the middle is winning right now. But really good stuff. And, boy, it's crazy to see. Look at that tack.
Wow. Whipping across. That's actually,
wow.
Yeah, that's Saxon and Dabson.
That was a
They
nice
went
tack.
really tightly on Echevarri and Pacheco. So they know the score. Echevarri and Pacheco have to beat them in order to get onto the podium. So they focused in on their immediate competition, and I'm guessing they'll try and crack off here and put some hurt on Echevarri and Pacheco.
But it is so close. Virtually Saxon, the British boat, the Spanish boat, and the Danish boat are virtually tied on points at the moment. So it's really about who beats who. Tita and Banty seem to be safe at the moment, as Saxton is leading the pack.
I don't even see. Oh, there they are. No.
So Christensen and Lubeck down in 6th place. Their gamble on the right side hasn't paid off yet. They'll need to pull something off on the downwinds, it seems, as they approach. You can just see them at the back of the screen, approaching the pack, and the whole pack who held their line off the start line has crossed ahead of them.
And you can see the Italians at the back of the screen all the way to the right. That's the Italian boat who's about to win this regatta, but they're not doing well in this final race.
Very classic fleet racing here, as all the teams have to line up on the starboard ley line, make sure they don't foul their mates as they tack in or cross.
We're definitely in a little bit less breeze now. As that rain cloud pulled away, the breeze went down a little bit. So I think that's maybe why the foiling not working quite so well for the boats that tried it.
There we go. Saxon goes for his tack. Saxon and Dabson. Echevarri in a relatively tough spot here. He's got to follow directly behind Saxon and Dabson. He's got some pressure from over top, but it shouldn't be too far to the windward mark here, and he'll hope to hold on and then have a good set.
All right, just super tight there. Rashleigh right behind Echevarri and Pacheco. Saxton coming around in 1st place. Look, they've shown that they know what to do in the breeze and sailed a smart beat. It wasn't anything special. It just was smart, good start, holding lanes, and there they go.
Much more controllable speeds here. So we'll definitely look for the teams to get up in foiling and extend as fast as they can here. Just as we see that, Ben Saxon pushes the bow up right when his crew, Katie Dabson, gets the spinnaker set, and they're foiling already.
And many of these teams on different settings, on those elevators, on those dagger boards, and you know, I think as they share their data going into training for Worlds, you're going to see these boats get much more stable and much quicker. And as they find out the interface between where they put the elevators and where they stand on the boat and all these kind of things.
Look how the weather can change within 30 minutes. It's almost sunshine now. It's not that
very
great
controllable
anymore.
wind speeds as the teams head to the corner and go for their jibes. That's
13 knots at the moment.
Echevarri and Pacheco going for their jibe. Not an amazing jibe.
But Echevarri only needs to finish one behind Saxton Dabson, correct? I think that's right.
Yes, that's right.
And
for
then
him
they're
to finish
okay
ahead.
for either silver or gold, depending on the other team. But so right now they're just following, and that's the smart move. Follow, maybe try and get a little depth. Make sure you protect behind.
We might see a potential for some match racing up the next leg here if Saxon and Dabson realize they need to put a boat in between them and Echevarri. But right now we see Echevarri in the best breeze and catching up. So
I would be shocked if Saxton did not know that he needs to put a boat between them.
By the way, Christian Lübeck being in 4th place now, that's not good enough for the bronze medal.
Yeah,
he's out of the podium at the moment.
Yeah, that'd be a shame. We'd love to see our top female skipper here in the medals, but so be it. Right now, we're going to see if Fernando and Tara have what it takes to stay in touch with the British duo.
A split here from our leaders. That's very interesting.
Well,
so
you know what,
Saxon
Fernando's gone
could
left.
have.
Sorry.
Saxon and Dabson could have continued on to the same mark that Echevarri took and Pacheco, but instead he opted for the one he obviously felt was favored, and now he's got a big split on the one boat he needed to control.
That's really interesting. This could be, I mean, this is the regatta right here for at least 3 of these boats.
And just at the back of the fleet there's Tita and Banty in the back of the fleet by a fair margin, so it's all up to Christensen and Lubeck. We see them in 3rd place here. That's them coming towards us in the bottom of the screen. They need to pass both boats and have Tita and Banty stay at the back to win the championship. Only a moment ago we were talking about them not being on the podium.
Wow. I'm a little stunned actually to see what's going on here, but maybe now that rain cloud's gone through, this could be the only time the left doesn't work. But in the first 2 races, Echevarri was able to make that left pay almost every time.
What a fantastic image here we're getting from our drone as it shows us all the boats in the fleet in one discernible image, and now we're on board with Echevarri and Pacheco.
Wind has dropped down to about 16 knots right now, so very much more controllable. And you see the difference between that 16 and the 20 is very big, you know, and that wind threshold will keep going up. Not a great tack for Echevarri. Here comes a cross.
Looks light right here as they're tacking, and Echevarri's gonna get that cross.
So what's Christensen and Lubeck doing?
There's more wind on the
to
right.
catch up. Is the right side going to pay for them?
Definitely more breeze over there.
Sorry, it's the left side. They're on the left.
Echevarri's on the left. Saxton's on the right. And there is more. You can see the darker water over on the right. Maybe we can get rid of the scoreboard for a minute. I don't know.
Just losing our drone image altogether. Oh, but we see the graphic
Right's
was showing Echevarri being even with Saxon, but we can see in real time the Saxon's right side has paid off handsomely, and they'll do a comfortable pass here. Going to be very difficult for Senholt and Lubeck to make the pass from that distance, but still about 4 minutes left in this race of chasing to do.
Look at that tack. I tell you what, they maybe have the smooth. Saxton Dabson maybe have the smoothest tacks in the entire fleet, but you can see why they went right at that bottom mark. That was to get into that dark water on the right. It's worked for them. It has not worked.
And they've tacked right on top of Echevarri and Pacheco. You can see them in those 2 boats in the middle of our screen. Saxon had to do the split because it's a gate configuration, but he has come back to his immediate rival in this race in the regatta to make sure they do everything they can to get a boat in between them and the Spanish.
You're looking at the 2, 3, 4 boats right there. Cross coming up for Christensen Lubeck as well for that other boat.
That's Phipps Boniface, I believe, or possibly Rashleigh Merriman.
Are they going to get it? I think the Danes are going to get it.
They're certainly going for it. Whether they can be on ley line there.
Oof. I don't know. I'm not sure about that ley line. They might be able to get it, but it's going to be tough in the lighter air here. And all the way out here to close to us is, I think, Rashleigh.
So, Marcus, can you give us an update here on the sum of the points here? It's a very close point spread as we head into the final race.
It is super close. Tita and Banty on 60 points. I think they're safe. Echevarri on 62 points. Saxton Dabson on 63 points. Christensen and Lubeck on 64. It's as close as it can get.
Let's make sure the drone is covering the front of the fleet here as they go around. Every point's going to matter as these teams fight for the European podium.
And there is a nice puff of breeze on the way down here. Saxton Dabson go around in the lead. Echevarri in second. Christensen Lubeck going for the hoist. And they have got to get it moving here if they're going to be able to stay in the points. Rashleigh came around from the far left, and I don't know where he came around from, but he just pulled into 3rd place. Chris Rashleigh, Laura Merriman, a doctor, a PhD in naval architecture. Quite a lot of brain power in this fleet.
Full foiling. The teams are aiming to keep it as level as they can. They've got one more jibe to pull off, and then through the finish line if they can get their ley lines right.
And now we're looking there. You see 4th place in this race.
This could be a crucial split. If Lubeck manages to overtake Saxton, that is Rashleigh and Merriman, they've jibed with them. If they can overtake them, they can take the bronze. If they stay where they are,
then they're in 4th place.
They're in 4th place.
Yeah.
It does look difficult for them to make any passes forward, but if they can keep ahead of the British boat Rashleigh, then that'll be the championship. This is the overall scores on our leaderboard right now, and the final finishing positions indicated by the gold, silver, and bronze buttons.
If a gust hits them and they can go lower, they have a chance to slip in. At the moment, it doesn't look like it, though.
Back to our leaders here. Ben Saxton, Katie Dobson, already got a bullet today, looking for their second bullet of the day, and they will take it. Beautiful work.
So they did everything they could with 2 wins in a row.
And now let's find out what that means for the rest of the fleet. Here comes Fernando Echevarri, Tara Pacheco.
And it's all on this next finish. Who will be on the podium and who will slip off
It's
it?
either Rashley or it's Christensen Lubeck.
Can they come ahead?
It's going to be
come ahead?
Rashley, I think.
Oh.
Oh, my God. I think Lubeck might have.
Oh, he lost out big time.
Oh, man. Look at this. Not only are they going to lose their silver medal, but Lynn Christensen, oh, no. They lost 4 boats on that run.
Well, they tried.
Oh.
They tried.
They knew they had to go for it. They took a little bit of a risk.
They did lose the 4th place, but they tried their last attack, and it didn't work, and they fell out of the podium.
Oh, what an intense race there. Congratulations to Ben Saxton. Comes from 4th place overnight into the bronze medal position. Congratulations, Fernando Echevarri, from the 3rd place position into the silver medal position. And, of course, congratulations to our first-time European champions, Tita and Banti from Italy, new to the class. Stayed steady with their good results all week and took the title.
That's great. It's great news to see newcomers to the class do so well, and to see an Italian team do so well. And even though they got that last place or second to last place in the final race, it didn't matter, and it keeps it nice and close. Look at this point spread. First place, 60 points, just 2 points back to the Spanish duo on 62, and then Saxton Dabson with a brilliant final day on 63, just 3 points back. But that'll be a sad Dane, and I'm sad for them. She was really a bright light in this fleet this week. Then we've got Gibson Burnett, a very respectable regatta. And then another British team, Tom Phipps, Nicola Boniface, a Little America's Cup veteran himself, 87 points. Alan Norregard, Rio Olympian, and Annette Vibor, 89. And Chris Rashley, Laura Merriman, Dr. Laura Merriman on 97. So, and I don't think they expected to even make the medal race in this one. But and certainly the British team didn't expect to get 4 boats in the medal race. So impressive job from British sailing, but a great job from the Italian racers, Tita and Banti.
Very impressive racing today. We saw a variety of conditions. We saw them basically battling to get around the course quite out of control, or at least out of sorts for the first 2 races. And then as the wind dies down just a tiny bit, back in full race mode, everything running as 100% and back to regular racing. So just a reminder what we have on tap for the rest of the series. We'll go straight into 3 races of the 49er FX series, and then after the 49er FX, we have the 49er. All of the battles are very close in terms of the points, and we'll see 6 more excellent races as we finish out the day. We can see now in screen the 49er FX sailors all tuning up ahead of their race. They now get to go into the race area and see how their settings feel, get a handle on what the conditions are like for them, and
I think we're setting up for an interview. They'll let us know as soon as we can start talking to our winners.
There they are.
There they are. And Rugi Tita, man, you came out of a different fleet, your first time doing a race in the Nacra 17, and you just became the first ever European champion in the foiling Nacra 17. How does that feel?
Yeah. Okay, we need some time to realize. Che dicano qualcosa dal commento.
I'll try again. Rugi, can you hear me?
You should.
Rugi, can you hear me?
Hallo?
Hello? I don't think we've got any audio, guys.
Ich höre euch, ihr sollt halt sagen, was wissen will.
just ask the cameraman to ask him some questions.
My English is bad, but I can't hear anything.
You can't hear anything. Rugi, we'll try one more time. Can you hear us? Oh, let's kill that. All right,
Oder hört
folks.
euch nicht.
All right, we tried.
Okay, well, some happy Italians there. And,
We'll get them on the dock.
We'll get them on the dock. We didn't get a chance to check them, but we could see the thumbs up. We could see the congratulations from their competitors. And, you know, that's a big story out in Italy for them. They've got a new duos who went to the Olympics splitting up, and the depth from their 49er fleet paying off for them here as they jump right to the top of the Nacra 17 fleet.
Well, and I think for Italy, it's important for them to get some early blood on the board. You know what I mean? Some first blood. Italy hasn't had the greatest results in the Olympics in Olympic sailing for a while, and there's some phenomenal Italian sailors in the world. We know some of the best in the world in moths, in sport boats, in America's Cup sailing. Luna Rossa, the Italian challenger for the next America's Cup. So it'd be great to see the Italians get some of that sailing pride back in the Olympics, and maybe this is the team that'll do it.
Yeah, we saw them with 5 strong teams in the 49er the last quad. Now one of them moves over to the Nacra 17, and we'll see 2 more of them into the final of the 49ers. So definitely some high-quality fast sailing from the Italians right now.
Yeah, folks, if you want to see the full results from the full Nacra 17 fleet, there's also the Nacra 17C fleet with the previous design of the boat. That won't be around for too much longer, but you can go to nacra17.org and click on the European link, and you can see all the results and all the news and everything else that we've got, photos and so on and so forth. So thank you for watching Nacra 17 Medal Racing. Next up, 49er FXs. And it's going to take a little while to set the course. Explain what they have to do to set these boundary lines, which we didn't see in the Nacra, but we're going to see for the next 2 fleets.
So the course is going to be ultimately the same course, as in it's a 2 laps windward-leeward configuration, but what we're going to add here we call the lane boundaries. Just like you saw in the America's Cup for the last months, we're going to restrict the areas that the teams can go to so they can't just one-tack the beats, and they have to keep interacting with each other. So there's a few configuration changes happening right now. The race officer will be shortening the course a little bit because the 49er FX will travel slower than the Nacra 17. So we've got to move those marks, and we've also going to drop the lane boundaries. As we check that out, we're going to look at the leaderboard here so we can get in touch with who's racing in this final. On top, we've got Vicky Jersock and Annika Lorenz, the German Olympic duo who came 5th in Rio. They've rededicated themselves this spring and have sailed very well, a couple podiums through the World Cup Series, and sailed really nicely in yesterday's breezier conditions to move themselves up to the top place. Behind them in second are a new duo, Dobson and Tidy from the Team GBR, British Sailing Team. Charlotte Dobson was in Rio with a different crew, and so was Saskia Tidy, who sailed for Ireland at the last Olympics, able to move across and sail for the British Sailing Team this year, and that duo has sailed very well so far this season as well. In third place, we've got Tina Lutz and Lutz and Boyka. They were hoping to make the Olympics last time, got beat out by their teammates, but they've rededicated themselves to a Tokyo 2020 campaign and have sailed very well so far. The next team up is the first time we've seen them this high in the podium. They've been training for 2.5 years in the 49er FX, came across from the 470, Hitai and Ikura from Japan. They've got a big program out in Japan.
What's their history in the 470? How'd they do there?
I think they're quite young, so they were still just in the masses, let's say, in that class, but for the last 2.5 years, they've brought over Finnish gold medalist Jyrki Järvi to work with all the Japanese teams, and so far, this is the best we've seen them do at a major competition, but
great performance.
Very good performance. What we've had this week is a whole variety of conditions, so for teams to have done well here means they've really got a handle on a lot of conditions, and it bodes well for a Japanese team that'll be full of ambition for their home Olympics. Next up, we see two Dutch teams in a row, Beckering and Janmaat, along with Kuvert and Kisters. The Dutch teams are all mixing and matching right now. They've got a squad of 8 to 10 teams between the 49er and mostly in the 49er FX, and every month or so they change skippering, change crewing, change partnerships. Beckering and Janmaat, this is their first regatta together. Kuvert and Kisters have done a couple, but nevertheless still very new to it. In 7th place, we've got the Agerup sisters, twins from Norway, who attended the last Olympics. They just won the 2017 Junior World Championship in the 49er FX. From Sweden, we see an Olympian in the crew, Hanna Klinge, and a new skipper, Julia Gross. And finally, we've got our 2 Danish teams, Hansen and Everson. Hansen just got a gig for going on the Volvo Ocean Race. Very excited about that. And then our three-time European champion Bad Nielsen and Thusgaard Olsen in 10th position. As we just gaze before we get off the leaderboard to the right-hand column, we see the points. There's going to be a few more points on offer, a maximum of 27-point spread here. If one team were to win all 3 races and another team were to lose or to come last in all 3 races, but nevertheless, we should see most of the action from about 8th place up. It's going to be tough for those Danes to get onto the podium, but quite a lot of pressure for all the way along. We'll really see the regatta unfold here, and everyone's going to have to sail well.
It is really close, and really the potential to win this regatta for the first 3, maybe for first 5, if something really dramatic happens.
I'm going to tell you, I mean, for me, the stories in this fleet are Jenna Hansen first as we get inside 2 minutes to go. Jenna Hansen dropping through her only double-digit finishes of the entire week were all yesterday, and she got 3 of them, which is just uncharacteristic and for any sailor. But they just had one of those awful days, and they couldn't figure out what it was, and hopefully they can get it back under control. But they're going to be out there with some anger and some vengeance in their hearts. The other one is Lutz and Boyka, who were leading going into yesterday. They dropped back to 3rd. But they love big air. They're generally known as the better big air sailors of the 2 German teams here in the finals. And they told me they really love to be trailing. They love to be on the attack. It makes them feel better. It makes them sail stronger. Hold on.
3, 2, 1.
So there you go. 1 minute to go. And I think for me, those 2 teams here have the most to prove, and I expect a lot out of them.
With a minute to go here on only 10 boats on the line, the teams don't have to set up as early as we see in the big fleet racing. There should be plenty of different routes up, and in this type of racing we see a lot of port tack starts as teams try to shave one tack off their overall route. The other difference between this course and what we saw in the Nacra 17 racing is there's a windward gate, so teams have the choice of going around the right gate or the left gate at the windward marks. And
pretty dramatic port end advantage at the moment, by the way. More than analytics say, more than 50 meters.
We've unfortunately our boat seems to got stuck on the wrong side of the line again, so you can't. We're not going to be able to make out any sails at all. But we'll see if we can help you out with the analytics. Head over to SAP. Hold on.
3, 2, 1.
There you go. There's the start. So again,
one of our Danish teams just dipping in, got a little overpowered at the start, and then they're under pressure immediately from the Dutch.
We did get an all clear from the race committee, so nobody over early. That's important.
Japanese team, excellent start on port, and our overall leaders are Germany 9, center of screen, Yersak and Lorenz.
A dramatically skewed line. Everybody going for the port option.
Well, and you had Beckering.
Oh, a breakdown here from the Japanese. Something happened there, made them stop, but they got it recovered after only 2 boat lengths.
Maybe dropped the main sheet or something.
Something like that, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, both of our early leaders in the regatta, the Dutch and the Danish with Jena on board, the port tack at the pin, and 5 boats starting on port tack in that one. So heavily skewed line, but the race committee let him go.
Blustery conditions again today. And we can see all the teams bouncing around. We can see that it's blustery because they're having to readjust their sails quite frequently. So unsteady conditions, very challenging.
So looking here at Germany 9, that's Lutz and Boyka. We know they love the breeze. They've got the bow down. The boat is absolutely charging.
They do look fast.
Oh, my God, they look fast. And they're very well down.
This is a team who's one of the lightest in the fleet, but they've just really dedicated themselves to their heavier sailing and are trying to make do with less weight and better technique.
Here they go for attack. Let's watch that technique. Pretty smooth. Back out on the water. Full legs, straight legs out, and there they go. Will that be enough?
Well, we saw from the pin end start that the Danes actually should be pretty launched because it was so skewed.
It was about a 15 boat length lead at the start, wasn't it?
And we would expect the wind to swing back. Obviously, the line was that skewed because the wind had gone to the left. We would expect it to swing back. Analytics tell us that it has happened a little bit, at least 10 degrees shift back.
Is there a time
so we see
interval?
Yersak and Lorenz, even in these big conditions, able to keep track of the shifts, and they tacked right on that shift and will have sailed 2 lifts so far.
Yeah, nice work from them, but they do sit fairly low in the fleet position right now in this first of 3 medal races. Big puffs in the middle of the course. Seeing lots of heeling.
And a big gust coming in from the top left. We can see that on the screen. Whoever gets that might get an upper hand. That might be good news for Lutz and Boyka.
It looks like Super hard to make out sale numbers for us here. Sorry, folks. But the drone is also on that side. Japan down here to leeward.
This boat out here should be Denmark 71 and Lutz and Boyka just behind him.
Oh,
on the left-hand
capsize in
side.
the foreground with the Japanese team. They didn't get their timing right in attack, and
Two-
we also
two
see a
boats
capsize
capsized,
behind.
so big
That's a
gusts
big
coming
gust
in.
in from the right, and two teams haven't been able to handle it.
And our wind device is just plotted 24 knots out there, so it is getting windy.
Our weathermen did predict very high gusts today, an average of up to 22 with gusts up to 30. This is we didn't see it in the Nacra racing so much before that front of rain, but now we start to see the weather pipe in as we expected overnight.
Analytics tells us that a 49er FX moves downwind at 1.1 knots when it's upside down.
There we
And
go.
you can see there's a ton of... Oh, Jursock and Lorenz also upside down.
Our
You can see
regatta
them on
leaders.
board.
This is our regatta leaders, our gold medalists going in today, and they are upside down.
How many of our boats are upside down here?
I've
Because
got
they were
Two
that's at
are
least three.
Japanese and no, sorry, is that Dobson and Tidy and Yurtsok and Lawrence?
Yeah.
No, well, let's look for the ones that are stopped on screen.
Just two. Just got those two. Yurchak Lorenz and Hatai Itakura.
We see the top teams getting around the windward mark already.
No kites being set just yet. I think they're content to just go fast and go easy, and see if those puffs are going to come through again.
They're setting, Alan. It just maybe took a while for that first one to get going, but the teams are setting their kites. Oh no, the leaders aren't. But in second place, leaders are quickly about to make a pass here with the big breeze, and that
Is that Lutz and
That's
Boyka
Lutz
setting
Boyka
the
making the
kite?
pass. The third place German team moving into the lead. Head over to facebook.com/49er Sailing for a great interview with them from last night. They were looking to attack. They love to come from behind.
And here's the drive. Here's
they
the
just
drive.
doing it.
Stay on.
Can they
stand
hold it through? Can they hold it? Here comes the main pop, and they got it.
Good
Beautiful.
And we see actually the Danes have
She's doing a
rounded
granny.
up. They haven't jibed because they don't have their spinnaker grub. But very difficult to jibe
The
two
boat
sails.
does not balance with two sails,
But it means
especially
you have
on the
to
edge
do a
of a puff.
left-handed barroway here. That's Hansen and Everson, or that's actually only one boat with their spinnaker up.
Tina Lutz, she's a very good windsurfer, and she knows big breeze, so that's paying off right now.
It's win or swim for this team right now. It's win or swim. I love it. The ambition there, and they've survived. They did their jibes. They got their douse in.
Other boats in the background, can see the kites up. They're
In second
packing
place,
up.
that's
They're
Hansen
packing
and
up. Are they in a
Everson.
good position for the leeward gate? They need to luff up a little bit. Difficult to sail reach.
I'll tell you what else is, Suzan Sani Boyka is a big, strong girl and very fit, and that's what you need right now.
Just in behind, we can see all the boats overstood here. Jenna Hansen having to take down now, not able to get the mark, and it's a very difficult proposition to do the two-sail high reach here.
Ooh.
Jenna Hansen's going to be in a lot of trouble to
another
get
puff.
around the leeward gate,
With
and then
another
have to
puff
do
coming in.
another barroway.
So
All the fleet's been overstood here. We must have had a big wind shift along with this breeze.
And we're going to
Great first downwind.
There we go. Here it's coming back. So looking at the analytics, it's
let's get the
about a
leaders
10
up.
boat length, 15 boat length lead for Lutz and Boyka. They call Lutz Bowser, if you guys remember Super Mario Kart, the thing with the big teeth, likes to eat things up as it's driving along. And Boyka they call the Kiel Sprat, the little fish from Kiel. Look at
Kieler
the
Sprotte.
Kieler Sprotte.
Very good sailing from them. Very impressive stuff. They're actually very low compared to what we saw last beat. Could be that's what made all the boats overstand. They're probably going to try and do the square course here and just sail a square, given they're so far in the lead and everyone's following them. There's no need for them to attack early and try and play a shift. Just keep between the next marks and your competitors.
And take a look right there. Marcus just highlighted Yurchak and Lorenz, who just got the boat going again on this
they
lap.
haven't rounded the windward mark
No,
yet.
they're going to get lapped here, and they're watching their gold medal hopes slip away
Let's
pretty
have a look
quickly.
what that means for the overall score. Let's sort by overall score. So it's Lutz Boyka now in the winning position. Yurtsok Lawrence with a 10th place, still in second place. Dobson and Tidy in third overall.
But that does condense the leaderboard. There was a decent lead there. Now we see an overtake, but plenty of people have a chance for the medals. As we can see, anything can happen
It is getting
in this,
closer.
In this exciting racing here.
Wind is shifting further to the right. The most right it has been so far. We can see in the wind plot down here, 245 degrees right now.
I think we're looking at our leaders right now. Is that right, or is that the?
It is.
It is. Sure,
leaders,
that's
yeah.
our leaders. So interestingly enough, another maybe 200 meters, 100 meters up the course is their training partners, Jurchak and Lorenz.
But they're a lap down. You don't see that very often in this top flight racing, but when the big puff came through, it knocked a third of the fleet, or 3 of the 10 boats over.
Here we're on board with the very, very wet Vicky and Annika.
And at this stage, they're just looking to salvage some points here. So a DNF would get them an extra point. Also, we've seen some other boats capsize, so they're looking to finish their race cleanly and be able to maybe get away with a 7 or 8 points instead of 11 points. So there's still something to play for in them, even just achieving the course. It's and you know, given how windy it is, that's not a guarantee.
That was a big gust that blew him over on the right-hand side of the course there. It was just like, it must have hit really hard. Both boats were just blown away.
Interestingly, though, the Japanese team were able to get back up and together. They're already around the bottom mark, so it was only the German team that had all that trouble.
In a 49er, if you capsize the wrong way, sometimes you have to let it capsize again before you can get it up the right way. So it can be a very time-consuming
Lutz
maneuver.
and Boyka around the windward mark again. Safe hoist for them.
Go straight in for the jibe.
We see Jenna Hansen and Katja Everson, Denmark 71, that are in second place. They were the second team to get their spinnaker up and survived a very tricky douse.
Were you surprised to see them not hoist on that run?
I was. It was actually Ida Nielsen and Marie Olsen who were leading around the first windward mark, and those two are very solid boat handlers. But they've been out of the sailing scene for 11 months, really. So they've only been back into it for about a month, and obviously they just didn't know exactly what they could get away with, and no doubt we'll see them try and get things going the rest of the day.
We do have another big chunky puff coming down the course, as you can see behind that red spinnaker of Jenna Hansen and Katja Everson. But look at the lead. You really do rarely see this kind of lead in a 49er Olympic fleet.
Well, in a 10-minute race fleet, especially, but with the different puffs coming through and lots of disarray on the first downwind, that's how the gaps open up.
But they got to get it over the finish line. If another big gust hits, they got to bring it home.
They look so in control, though, Marcus, don't they? I mean, they really, and their jives
easy
so
from
nice.
Here, doesn't it?
Okay, we're just getting reports that the Dutch team is capsized. I think that's
probably
Kuvert and Kisters down in 7th place. And as we see, guaranteed to get through the line. Oh, they do have to do another jibe.
Yeah, let's watch it. Sheets on.
No problem.
Nice, clean jibe.
I mean, they're really smooth. They're pulling perfect angles into and out of the jibes, which is crucial. The timing is solid, and they are having fun. I'm telling you, these girls are so cheery and so bubbly. They love what they're doing, and they love to be able to do it for 3 more years.
Right there.
Fist pumps. That's a happy team. They took their ambition last night and converted it into a win for the first race.
Not only a win, but a win when their chief competition all having issues. So Jenna Hansen through the line, salvaging that one.
Good race for her, but she's down in 9th place, so it's going to take a couple of those to move up the standings. And her teammate, Nielsen and Olsen, finish in 3rd. Good racing for the Germans and the Danes so far, just not the one we expected, who's in the lead.
We haven't seen Charlotte Dobson and Saskia Tidy at all, so I'm assuming they're not up near the front, and they may be well near the back, so we may see some real shakeups here. I mean, I didn't expect much of it. I really didn't expect it to shake up so much.
They have capsized as well, and they're trailing behind. They haven't rounded the windward mark yet. So let's look down in the leaderboard, who's still trying to battle it out for those few spots. Jurchak and Lawrence still in last place. Dobson and Tidy second last. Yeah, they're fighting it out on the second upwind.
This is a classic 49er day here with half the fleet upside down. And,
look at this tight finish right here. Anna Beckering coming in on starboard, just behind.
Oh, that's a port starboard right there.
Oh, that is definitely going to be a penalty, I think.
I think they were through the line, but I can't see which one is the other end of the line. 3 boats finishing very quickly there. Let's hear if the umpires have anything to say.
I'm not sure we can get transmission from this distance, but we'll see.
Do you want to stand up and just
I haven't had a lot of luck getting in touch with them, but nice work from the Swedes as well.
So that crossing situation was the Swedes on port with Beckering and Janmet on starboard, and the Swedes gave no way on port. It might have been through the finish line that an incident occurred, so it'd be very costly for the Swedes there. They'd have to do a circle and then refinish if they were to make up, if the jury was to find them in an infringing position. Agarup sisters in 6th place, and we're still waiting for Dobson and Tidy, a team who we should expect to do very well in these conditions. They're both tall, strong girls.
Lots of experience
training in Weymouth for a long time, which is a typically blustery place, but it only takes putting one foot wrong to get it out of sorts here.
Japanese team is just coming down the run now. I think maybe even without the spinnaker, yeah.
And that's, if we can keep track of Lorenz or Vicky and Annika, that we saw how difficult a time they had getting their first capsize back up. But if they can pick up a couple capsize boats on the way around, they'll salvage a half-decent score here.
Well, meanwhile, the Dewey Kuvert and Jessica Kisters are sailing upwind past the top mark. I don't know if they maybe had some damage or they're coming in or what, but we shall see. Yurchak and Lawrence just around the top mark. And
the next team we expect to see finish is actually a close battle between the Japanese, who don't have their spinnaker up. Oh, they did put it up in the end. Okay, so they're through. Dobson and Tidy next, and then the Germans leading previous to this race. Jersak and Lorenz hoping now to stay upright and score their 9 points, only being able to stay ahead of the Dutch team 669, who seem like they're retiring.
No, they finally made their turn. I think they were just looking for a spot to set their kite or start going downwind.
Yeah,
obviously.
Getting that barroway in is very difficult. Got to pass the sails through 90 degrees to the wind at full exposure, and got to get that timed right. The teams do have 10 minutes to finish. Typically not something that comes into play, but in these tricky conditions, one of the limits they'll have to look out for, not that they're approaching it just yet.
It's one thing that non sort of apparent wind sailors often have a hard time understanding is that sometimes you just can't reach. You have to go upwind and then downwind. You can't reach, and you have to figure out the perfect spot.
We saw that in the America's Cup with Artemis in the one race. Even the 6 of the best sailors in the world couldn't get a barroway in, had to wait for the timing. Cost them, well, we got a great moment of audio out of it. But Marcus, thank you. Why don't you tell us what we see in this race?
Well, let's look at that data a little bit and try to make some sense of it. A very different picture when it comes to the speed opposed to the Nacra that we saw before. Strong correlation of speed to race success. Lutz Boyka being the fastest team, they looked super fast coming out of the start. You could see the
they also hoisted and spent the most time sailing with their spinnaker downwind. No doubt on that first run that will have helped their average speed quite a bit.
Almost same speed on Beckering Janmaat, but and low distance. So that's a little odd that they were so fast. It must have been some glitch in the data. But I think speed does matter. But if we can go to the SAP sailing analytics and have a look at the wind plot, that's also quite interesting. We have the wind plot down here, and let's get the wind plot up from the starting phase. This was around the start. Before the start, the wind peaked at 28 knots, and then we had this other peak here during the upwind with 26 knots, and I think that's what blew over those boats on the first upwind, and I think that can happen again in the next races coming up.
Yeah, it's not like the wind's dropping.
No, the forecast is for these puffs to come in up to 30 knots all afternoon, so every team here is going to be struggling at times today. And
what does the class have rules or limits on wind? I mean, when is it that it's just unsaleable anymore? Is there a number?
25 knots for 30 seconds or puffs to 30. So the race committee will no doubt be looking at the data. It is very affected by the wave state, though, and since we're in such flat water, the boats are able, we saw, of course they're struggling, but they're actually able to sail pretty well here for the most part. So the 49 are very, very affected by waves, and in the flat water, they'll get away right to the maximum of the fleet limits.
I'd also say that, the winner of that race actually sailed very conservatively. They one tack, one jibe each leg, and it's just that they were able to keep control.
They sailed that good old circle where they kept it super simple.
Yeah. Looking at our race committee here from all over Germany, these race officials come. There's some beautiful little children on board, too.
Do they have footballs there? The blue flag. Those footballs are meant to strap onto the lane ropes. The race committee always has the option to keep the lane ropes up if they feel the conditions warrant it, and I think we'd all agree it's better just to give everyone as much freedom as they can to get around the course today.
All right, let's have a look at the results after our first medal race today. As we saw, Tina Lutz and Suzan Boyka with a gorgeous race and now a 2-point lead going into the rest of the day. Yurchak and Lauren's able, as you said, Ben, to salvage something there in 9th place, and that drops them into 2nd. And Dobson Tidy dropped from 2nd to 3rd with an 8. So we're almost sort of all even in a way.
3.5 points between the top 3 sailors with 2 races to go. That's almost nothing. and what a tight battle within the medal positions.
And plenty of chance for Beckering, Janmat, and Hatay Itakura, and even Gross Klinga to get back into this. As we see, one capsize could mean a 10 or a 9. And then we get back to the Agrup sisters, Hansen, Everson. There's really all to play for all across this fleet. I mean, not everyone can get into the medals, but everyone can move up or down quite easily here.
We saw with a good finish in that second race, or the first race there, Hansen and Everson have moved themselves up at 64.5 points. They could easily leapfrog into fourth with another good race like that if it goes their way. And, who knows from there what's going to happen.
Well, it's certainly going to be exciting. We've already seen it come down to the wire in our first fleet of the day, the Nacra 17s. You can, if you're just joining us now at this European Championship, you can just rewind and watch it again if you want, or just watch this race again. That was exciting stuff. I always want to see the replay as well.
It's not often we see boats getting blown over upwind. That takes a really good puff. The skippers have to have a hair trigger on that jib, because once the crews let out the main to the point where the jib back wins it, there's no more pressure to release, and the only lever they have left is to blow the jib. It's a very difficult maneuver in the 49er to blow your jib. It's under quite a lot of tension on the upwind, and that's something that the best skippers in the world have a good handle on. One of the big clips that we show is Nathan Utteridge and Ian Jensen jumping their boat at the 2015 European Championships, and what most people don't see is that Nathan Utteridge has eased his jib 2 inches just before that wave hits, so they can reaccelerate smoothly when they get on the other side of it. And it's those small differences that separate the sailors, and all these teams have to not only know what to do but also be able to execute in the moment.
And the jib is, just the jib, even if you had the main down and you had the jib up, that'd be enough to blow over these boats in a puff like that.
I looked at the forecast just now for the next 2 hours, and it's supposed to increase slightly, not too much. So I don't think we're going to be blown out, and we're going to see the 49ers racing, but it's going up a little bit more.
We can see just from our position on shore here, the 49er Gold Fleet has just been released, so they're able to go on the water if they happen to be ready. We see a few of them doing that as we speak. They've all got their sails up and ready to go.
All right. Well,
we don't see a lot of action on the committee boat just yet in terms of getting the next race off, but they do have plenty of time. So we have all the way till 5 p.m. here. Maybe we'll try and get a word to the race officers and see if they're planning on getting straight into the next start or waiting for the winds to decay a little bit.
I can give them a shout. All right. So I wonder if we'll maybe try and give a call to the race committee or check them out on WhatsApp. But maybe they're just waiting for a little bit to blow through. I'm not sure what weather tools they have out there.
We're talking to sailors out there. Grab the radio, Alan. See if you can get a hold of the race committee. I think it's this one here, and let's just see if we can get a update on when the next race will be, so we can keep our race fans informed. Marcus, you sailed in some windy regattas. I think the last windy regatta you did was the 2007 Worlds. Does that one? No, the one from Cascais.
Yeah, that was windy. That was a Port Start Option Wins regatta. I think who won that one?
Stevie Morrison.
Steve Morrison. And
Port Tech started almost every time.
Yeah.
And we were sailing in Cascais, Portugal, suburb of Lisbon. Wind coming down off the cliffs, very flat water.
Yeah.
So at the top of the course, we could bear away in almost 30 knots, and the race committee kind of defrayed down at the bottom to only 25. And
it
very
is
exciting
beautiful sailing venue. It was once close to becoming an America's Cup sailing venue. It's always a good place to sail. Yeah, but sailing in these conditions here in the bay is great as well. It's those typical flat water conditions where you can still handle the boat in this sort of breeze. In waves at 25 knots, especially when the waves become short, if you would have tide against wind, it becomes pretty impossible. It's way out of control. You can't really sail with a kite. I found that the safest way to go downwind would be both on trapeze, no kite up, mainsail all the way, and sort of surf. You're in windsurf mode. Actually, no, the crew stayed inside. Helmsman went out, and it was sort of surfing mode.
At times, I would even climb over the tiller extension and trapeze off the rudder to keep the bow out. But the reason I bring that up is, Vicky and Annika, the two will have huge ambitions here to win their first European title, and they've had a bit of a nightmare in that first race. What would you be saying to them in the coach boat to get them refocused and able to compete?
I wouldn't say don't panic, because that's like saying don't think of pink elephants. So I don't know. You say it's just forget about it, and it's a new start. That was always my mantra when I capsized or when something bad happened. I trained myself to scrap away anything that happened and look at the road ahead as if it was a fresh start. You know, forget about no emotions, just go ahead and looking at the scoreboard, they're still in it. You know, why bother with what just has happened? They can still win this regatta. So something along those lines I would tell them.
I'll give you a little update from the race committee. Tom just checked in, and in fact, they were just waiting for the last finishers. I think Kuvert and Kisters took a long time to get to the finish, so it was just
great.
Getting everyone through the line. I think they're going to get ready to rerun it and go into race 2 here shortly.
I think what you're talking about there, Marcus, and it's kind of a bit of controlling anxiety, you know, capsizing in an important situation. It can be difficult physically, and then it can be difficult mentally, and getting through both of those, knowing these girls are fresh, they're fit, they can physically and mentally re-center themselves. Yeah. It sounds easy in the booth. Much more difficult to achieve when the sails are flapping and the coach is trying to get you something and say something, and maybe you want to say something to your crew as well or check the scores. A lot going on board. It's calm here, but on the water it doesn't feel calm in the slightest.
You have to get into the zone somehow, and sometimes something awkward happens. You capsize right before the start, or something breaks and you get into fixing mode, and then you get into the zone because of that, because you stop worrying. You know, you don't have the time to worry. You need to fix something. Packard brothers capsized in the final race, that famous medal race for the Olympics. They capsized right before the start. I think that put them in the zone to sail a good race. I think you can feel it. If you're in the zone where you do your best, you can feel it. And that feeling of, does the bull ride me or do I ride the bull? You can basically say, I'm not in the zone yet. You know, what do I need to do? How do I trigger that I forget about all the thinking and get into the doing?
And the challenge of that, you know, people will know when they're in the zone personally. You have to get both your teammates in the zone at the same time, which is another challenge of double-headed sailing. They can help each other if they know each other, or they can also hurt each other if one person gets out of sorts with a bit of a mistake, a little blame game too. It's a really interesting dynamic and one of the most special parts of double-handed sailing.
Yeah, definitely.
I had a chat with the Croatian sailor, I forget his name now. Anyway, 470 gold medalist in Rio, and he's just jumped into the Niner for a new challenge. He said he's gotten his gold, and now he's going to try and do it in something new. Plus, he was ready to start eating food again instead of rice and water all the time.
Pretty big boy for a 470 skipper, yeah.
Pretty big boy for a 470 skipper. I mean, he was a string bean, obviously, and now he's looking like a human and not like a war victim. But a brilliant sailor. He's sailing with his brother. And
Sime Fantala, the Fantala brothers are now a thing, and you know.
Great kids.
They have
from Croatia.
Correct. Yeah.
They have some of the best reputations.
They train more than most of the rest of the world. They got great sailing conditions, and I've been told they have a really high work ethic where they sail every day. And
just before the start here, the Silver Fleets got waved off. You know, the courses farther out to sea have bigger waves. You know who went out? Robert Scheidt with Sime Fantala. The two of them said, we're going sailing, we're going training, we've got everything ready to go sailing. And that's what they did, and it's no surprise. Those are two gold medalists looking to change fleets and become gold medalists again.
But my point was that was just as we see, we got 4 minutes to go. So nice job for the race committee getting it going again, looking at Yurchak and Lawrence drying out maybe a little bit. But my point was just talking about that interplay between the crew. When it's your brother, it's a little different. And one of the things that Simi said is, yes, we have our fights. You know, we might yell at each other occasionally, but the nice thing is that at the end of the day, you know you're always going to work it out. You know, you can't.
And they're not kids anymore. They're not kids anymore either.
To me, everyone's a kid.
Yeah, but they're, you know, they're certainly not kids, and it's a very different dynamic. You know, when you're a teenager sailing with your sibling, fighting with your sibling at home about who gets the car on a Saturday night, and then fighting with them about whether to go right or left, it's much more difficult to manage. In their 20s, already a gold medalist. I'm guessing one guy's in charge, and
I still have the same fights with my sister I had when we were 12 years old. So I don't know what you're talking about, but anyway, check them out, Simi and Mikhail Fantala. They're excellent dudes and really fun to watch. And that interview will be up in a little bit. I haven't put it up yet because I'm here with you guys, and we are at the 2017 European Championship. Looking right now at the 49er FX, the women's skiff. An exciting first race. It was the German duo of Boyka and Lutz who dominated that one just by sailing clean and conservative and not making any big errors and letting everyone else sort of self-destruct behind them.
We've got 2 races left on the cards, just a reminder, and 3.5 points between the top 3 boats. The 2 German boats and the British boat, all that you'll see on camera here, all fighting it out for their first European Championship chances.
A huge gust just came through the harbor. I don't know if you noticed. It's out there on the water now. Dark patch going towards the race course. It's out on the race course 20 knots now. This will hit 25 easily in a few minutes down when it gets to the race course. Square line at the moment. 2 minutes to the start. It's a pretty square line.
We're on board with Yersak and Lorenz. The duo does look pretty cool and calm right now, but like you say, that big puff is going to hit right before the start, and to be able to handle that and get your timing and acceleration right is going to be a challenge for every team.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, 23, 24 knots sustained right now. It's getting up there.
I'm monitoring the wind device. You can do that in the sailing. The spectators can do that in the sailing analytics up at the windward mark. Just click on it and it says 20 knots at the moment.
How high are your wind instruments?
2.5 meters,
okay.
3 meters.
So right around the area that the sailor's going to pick up with their sails. It's not one of these unrealistic readings that you get 20 meters up a lighthouse. It's what these sailors are going to face here.
Oh, they're really good. How do you say it?
Anemometer.
Anemometers. What a tough word.
I'm sure the German word is equally compelling.
Okay,
but we got 1 minute to go to the start.
Here you have it, by the way, if I can draw on screen. That's where we measure the wind right at the starting vessel. That's where our sensor is, and then we got up 1 at the windward mark. So 45 seconds to go. Is the line still square?
Line's relatively square, it looks like to me.
A little bit port side advantage,
yeah.
But I mean, in the last race it was radical. You can start on starboard.
I'm a little bit surprised how close some of these teams are to the line. You can always go forward in a 49er, very difficult to go backwards. So I hope some of these teams haven't got themselves too close to the start line. We see Vicky and Annika here just doing their final setup. Kind of looks to me like they've got an idea where they want to go. A few teams going on port behind them.
Lutz
Vicky
and Boyka
gets on
behind
the
them.
trapeze to just get moving a little bit. There's so much drag, it's very difficult to get started.
Look at the puff right there, you can see. So there we do have that puff coming down to the course here. 5 seconds to go, and they are ready to roll. On
Here's
this
the
side
line.
is Gross Klinga, so port tack at the boat end is the Swedish team. And about half the fleet on port here at the start. At least a few of them.
Clean start.
And
No
there comes
recall
the
flag.
puff. There comes the puff.
Yeah, the boat's coming off the pin end of the line, going to get that puff first, and they are surging it. Oh, we see one boat going backwards, so we've got a individual recall.
I didn't see an X flag on the.
It's either that or a penalty. One of the boats had to do a bear away from a very good position. So
I think it might have been a circle.
Okay. And then we're following here the Swedish boat 381.
So that's Ida Marie Nielsen and Marie Olsen doing a circle. So it looks like they made a little bit of an error.
Interesting development if we are looking at the SAP sailing analytics with 2 German boats heading out to the left-hand side. They had a nice start, and this is Lutz and Boyka. Sorry, is this Yersak and Lorenz?
Yeah,
55.
It is.
They can't tack at the moment.
And the Agrup sisters,
controlled.
the Agrup sisters are also sort of pinning out Lutz and Boyka from tacking too. So
big splits in the fleet. Now, Marcus, you're from here in a windy condition. Is there any left and right, or you just keep minimizing maneuvers?
From what I see right now, I would head towards the left. It looks a bit fresher over there, but generally the pattern from that direction is that the right side can work nicely.
I'll tell you what else is that the waves are much better on this board on port. Because they're sort of coming from out through the Kiel fjord. So actually there's a much better angle, and by the time you tack you're in less waves because you're closer to land. So from a wave standpoint, which is important in a skiff, I think this side might be a lot stronger.
Waves might be one of the most important factors. Every time the boat bounces, you got to reset a little bit. If you don't have it perfectly balanced, difficult skill, and you can see the angle of the waves, just like you were talking about here, almost in parallel with the direction
on
the
the
Swedish
other board.
Team's going. On the other board, they're going straight into it. So possibly
Left-hand
a good
side
tactic.
just got lifted 10-15 degrees.
So that'll be really good for the Swedish boat here if they can consolidate on the tack, and they're looking solid, aren't they?
Very good speed here from this team. They've been training together for just a few months.
But they're 9th overall, so the battle for the medal is on the other side of the course.
And our leaderboard does show Jursak and Lorenz, along with Tina Lutz and Suzan Boyka, in the lead of this race, according to the calculated gain line. And we can see as the drone cycles over that they do look far ahead.
I think that the Dutch team might have capsized again, looking at the just looking at this
Dewey
tracker right here.
and
Yep. No, I think it's Beckering and Janma.
Oh, so that's the first capsize we've seen from them today.
Yeah.
But probably every team earns one. Staying with the Swedes here, they're wow. Must have lost their tracker somewhere because they're clearly not in last place.
Yeah, they're not on the tracker. We've lost Gross and Klinge, so we're going to have to forget about that for a moment here.
But you can see that bobble there as the puff came in, and again, this is the more difficult. We saw how steady they were on the previous tack, and this tack we've just seen 2 bobbles in a row as the wind knocks them over. Those are the types of things that cost you meters and also work you out hard. That's what gets you tired, just having to recover from those bobbles.
They're almost around the top mark here, though, and with a big lead. So that right, nobody else even thought about going right or was able to make the right work. And
we can see crossing from the split from the far side.
Oh, look at this.
This is Tina Lutz and Suzan Boyka, GBR 9, followed in by their teammates. Oh, they're having trouble with the bearway. This is a left-handed bearway, the board that fewer teams practice. Very wide. And we can see behind them, Vicky and Annika also struggling with their bearway. They missed the first try. They just missed their second try.
Oh, and
they've got this
capsize at the other mark. Capsize at the other mark.
Onto the mainsail.
Jump onto the mainsail.
Oh my Lord!
And that's
is
that the Swedes coming through next? Also,
I think it is.
Not going for their bearway yet. Bearway's very difficult in the skiff if you don't have everything perfectly, and they go for the bearway. Will they get away with it? They'll have been intimidated seeing the Agarup sisters bail out at the last mark, but they did pull it off. Let's just see if anyone's putting up their spinnakers in this big breeze. Yep.
Look at it.
Lutz and
Boyka sending it. If you can get it up, it is the safest way to go.
And Jursak and Lorenz are hoisting as well.
The windward hoist is a
they
bit of a difficult skill.
Oh,
no, they're going to go.
Whoa.
Just rescued.
Wow.
They're saving it. That's
Look
the
at that.
saving move.
There you go.
Crew pins it in as they
Going
can
out,
get sorted.
and now they're shifting it.
And
It can get
let's
easily
watch it on
wrapped
the
around
pop.
the jib.
Oh,
That can get ugly. Can she get it around? She's working hard. Pull it.
They're having trouble
Pull it.
now.
Oh, they're slow. That's painful. And they accelerate again.
Oh my Lord! I mean, they're really
They
keeping their
manage.
composure here, though. They're doing the right things at every move and keeping the boat. They told me in our interview we have to keep the boat under the rig. That's all that's going to matter tomorrow, and that's what they're doing. And I'm so impressed right now.
And look at that. They actually left their jibe a tiny bit late, so now they have to do another difficult maneuver, which is the 2-sail reach to get their angle right. And they've missed that angle, too. They can't sail quite high enough. Now they have to go all the way upwind and do another
fairway. It is
very
tough.
difficult to get your lay lines right with everything else going on. They ended up having to go
I'm
so low
following
after
on
their
the
jibe.
sailing analytics now, and they're in for a super difficult.
So we just saw, and it's much
so
wavier
windy
down
now.
here. It's very windy. Are they going to make it?
I think they got it now. And up the jibe, too. I think our cameraman just fell over. Up the jibe, too. We got Ida Marie and Jursak Lorenz having issues on the jibe. So,
very exciting sailing here.
Oh, my. So we're on board with Jursak and Lorenz. They just, I think, got rid of the spinnaker. No, she's still got a sheet.
Yeah, they're through the. Oh, they've also overlaid the ley line here. So with the puff, did it come in from the left, Marcus? Is that why they're all so overstood?
That must have been
So they made it. Oh, it does look windy.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, now we finally have a little bit of light on the course. We can see how breezy it is. But I have so much respect for these women right now. They are holding it together, and Lutz and Boyka barely holding it together to get around that bottom mark. Jursak and Lorenz finally getting it together as well.
For those keeping track of the podium conversation, Dobson and Tidy not having the best time right now. They're down in 8th place, so they're at risk of falling off the podium. The 2 German teams surging forward and could be in a 2-way battle for the lead after this race.
Hansen Everson capsized.
Ooh.
So in that battle,
we can see that's Dobson and Tidy just trying to recover as well.
So Jursak and Lorenz and Lutz and Boyka heading out to the left-hand side. Just same playbook as before. Just go around in a circle, play it safe. I think they both did a incredible job getting down that run.
Can you pull up boat speed here, Marcus, so we can see which ones are not moving? It looks like most of them are moving, though.
I saw it in the corner of the screen is when your
looks like-
Chuck and
it looks
Lawrence
like the-
went through on the jibe, Jenna and Katja flipped over.
I mean, you can see the parked boats here, here and here. That's Hansen and Saskos Iversen capsized right there.
Japan has gone over.
Atia Itakura capsized here. It is a bit of a graveyard right now. Dobson and Tidy capsized.
And one more, I think. So
Super
a lot of
tough
boats
battle.
upside down, but the German team able to sail well, and as are the Swedish who we came along with. They're also going back to the right-hand side of the course like we saw last time.
Yeah,
as they go for their tack, no problems.
The Swedes will move up because your Chuck is having an issue, so
You know, I expected it to be windy today, as we all did with the forecast.
There
You know,
you
they've
go.
got
Can
their
they save
jib
it?
pinned.
Can they see this?
They dropped their jib sheet in the middle of the tack, so no one has
Always
control.
keep the jib.
Yeah.
That's the
Never
key,
lose
huh?
the jib.
But they survived that capsize. So far, anyways, one of them's got to get that jib sheet. Otherwise, they're not going to make it. They need to decide who's going to run in and just quickly scoop it up and who's going to do the steering. Not that you can tell who I think should be doing what.
and there's no way to release that jib from the high side when you drop it.
If you drop it, you can't get it.
There's
It's
no
cleated in the
bungee or-
middle. Yeah, it's cleated in the middle. You can see they've got control again now. So good for them recovering. And do we see Yersak and Lorenz drop back down the leaderboard? Have they capsized somewhere else on the
They
course?
did,
Of this
and I don't
They
know.
have. They must have capsized in the tack. They're just close to the Japanese, almost in the analytics. It looks like they're tangled up, but they're definitely next to each other. And off goes Lutz and Boyka. They're loving it. If they can play it safe on that downwind, they're in a really good position to win this.
I'm loving it too. I'm loving the fact that your Chuck and Lawrence are over again.
And
Kubert
we
and
can
sisters
see
are over.
This is this is Thurgard Olsen and Ida and Marie, as we call them. They're two of the best heavier sailors, so it's not a surprise to see them up in the front group and staying upright. But it's all about Lutz and Boyka right now. Good for them for just saying they were going to go for it. This could be their first European title, and they've earned it. You know, they had a really disappointing last quad. So
I have to send you guys again to 49er Sailing on Facebook. Go down the videos. One of the top videos on the screen is an interview with these two girls, Suzan and Tina. And just watch the interview I did with them yesterday. They told me what was going to happen, and it's all playing out.
let's see how this Barroway comes. This is going to be a tough moment.
Gross and Klinge looking for their best result of the week here, and
No problem.
got it.
By the way,
Beauty.
Lutz and Boyka went around the other mark and safely set. They're on the way down. We can't see them at the moment. They're too fast for the drone.
Here we got Nielsen and Olsen also setting up for the Barroway. You can see just a pop in the main there. They trade the sheet, so the skipper takes the main sheet and the crew gets the jib, and then they'll pop that jib off and try and go for the Barroway.
Oh.
You swing through that 90 degrees basically as fast as you can hold on, and then get to a safe spot to hoist the kite.
Marie Olsen, probably the biggest single sailor in the FX fleet. She's, she's almost 2 meters tall. It looks like to me she's taller than me, and I'm 192.
There in the background,
so
we have Lutz and Boyka charging towards the finish. They stood their jibe.
Wow,
and
look
I
at that
think they're
lead.
laying the finish now, so they're on the safe. They're on a safe track home.
I think,
Here they are.
I think that your Chuck and Lawrence and Hete Takura
They're on the way
have
home.
been swimming for a long time now.
And Lutz and Boyka are on the way home. I don't think they have to jibe. They didn't overstand. Super clean downwind. Great job on them, and that's going to help them a lot in the point score.
That'll really help them out to get a clean set, one jibe, straight through the finish. That's every crew's dream right there.
And it's currently Dobson and Tidy with 59 points overall. They almost did it. Haven't won yet. If they go over the line, is that correct, Ben? I think Dobson and Tidy would move to second overall. Yep, correct.
Can you press the sum?
Here we got a little bit of action here. We got is that Ida Marie or is that? I think that's Ida Marie, isn't it? Look at this. They're going for the pass, trying to get through to leeward. Great move right at the finish. The Danes just to leeward. They will break through the Swedes. That is a rivalry right there. Oh, my God. Can they hold it together? Ida Marie Olsen. Ida Marie.
Ida and Marie.
Ida and Marie, sorry.
They're too fast for the camera.
They're gonna take that last minute pass. That was brave as can be.
That passing was happening right at the finish line, so the Swedes have been hoping to hold on. What we were watching was just a bit through the finish line. We won't know. The analytics should know what place they finished in.
I think Nielsen and Olsen got them there. It looked like that to me.
Yes, they did.
Yeah. So Grosskling, I will be happy, but with their race, but. They pushed it right at the end, the Danes, and right when they needed to. That was good work.
And we can see more and more boats finishing here. We've got through the line, we've got Hansen and Everson in 4th place. Beckering, is that right, or is that just the place they're in?
Also seeing the Japanese team just around the bottom mark finally.
Here we go. Here's Hansen and Everson charging downwind.
Stay with them.
Yeah, they're going through the waves now. We can see it's so windy that even in this short fetch, the chop's building up to a point where it's challenging them. They're having to keep tabs on the spinnaker, blow it to relieve pressure sometimes. But beautiful sailing here from Jenna Hansen, who's on her way in the Volvo next race, and her crew, Katja Everson.
So the drone has been blown out of the sky, apparently, and the onboards have been wrecked. So this is the camera we've got and the analytics, and it is fine to watch. Jenna Hansen, Katja Everson tearing through the line. The 4th boat across the line. Maybe a little bit of a while before the rest come through.
Well, Jotzek and Lawrence are back on their feet, but they haven't rounded the windward gate yet.
Yeah, and then we've got...
Who do we expect to see next, Marcus? We expect to see Dobson and Tidy next, is that right?
Well, there's 3 boats up there at the windward mark. Dobson and Tidy,
and the
Agerup sisters, and Beckering and Janmaat.
Beckering and Janmaat look like they're capsized to me.
Yep.
And I think the Agerup sisters are also capsized. So the only 2 boats left on their feet are Dobson and Tidy, who are halfway down the run, aiming pretty well at the finish line, and then Yersak and Lorenz still having to do the bearway.
I'm seeing Agerup sisters moving at 11 knots right now.
It'll be pretty quick if they're capsized. Maybe they don't have their spinnaker up.
13 knots.
So they're making it downwind on 2 sails.
Yeah, yeah.
1 boat on screen with the spinnaker up. That would be...
That would probably be
Dobson and Tidy.
Dobson and Tidy.
Okay, so survival, let's call it for them, but a 5th place nevertheless. Not a bad score. They're drifting out of the podium conversation, but still got a good chance.
Kuvert and Kisters finally got it up, it looks like. So it looks like all boats are on their bottoms now.
Dobson and Tidy in picture, crossing the finishing line, now in 5th place.
We see, the other boats we're seeing with their spinnaker ups, that's the 49er fleet. So the 49er fleet got released at the start of that race, and they're out going to get into their paces. So let's try not to be confused by some of those boats we do see sailing around. Those are the 49er fleet. Here's the Agerup sisters.
Now, question, as we watch Ragna and Maya Agerup come through the finish line from Norway, a question for you, Ben, is we know the 49ers have quite a bit more power than these boats, and the men have higher weight and more strength. More easy to handle in these conditions, or harder to handle for those crews in these conditions?
Well, we're going to see ultimately. What we do know is that probably the average number of years that the 49er fleet in this top group has sailed is probably about 6 or 7 years, whereas the absolute maximum any of the FX sailors will have sailed yet is 5, with the average probably more like 3. So we've got at least double the average sailing years under their belts of the male skiff sailors that we're about to see in the 49er. Oh, capsize there from...
I think that's Kuvert and Kisters. I think they just
another capsize. That's going to get to tiring territory.
Yeah, I think it might be time for that Dutch team to maybe have a break.
Oh, we see in the background a 49er sailor capsizing. So
that was Beckering Janmaat.
Okay.
And they've had 2-3 capsizes already today as well. So.
Like I was saying though, that's a big puff. The 49er sailor going upwind in the background also got knocked over. So this might be one of those puffs that's
the wind reading,
too big to handle.
The wind reading is just coming in, and it's.
And here we go. Jersak and Lorenz going to pass Beckering and Janmaat and just surviving
26
here,
knots.
keeping in the race. But if they can survive, you can see their jibs. Oh, they're sailing basically wing on wing here.
Yeah.
It's so deep. But if they can just survive, that one more wave hit them. But they pop up and through.
It is so rough out there now.
That is windy. So,
but they made it home.
They made it home. 7 points. That gave up 6 more points to their teammates. What are we seeing with the math there, Marcus? Is the European title wrapped up, or is it still up for grabs? And if you put the sum column, we now know all the players. Not quite. We have 50.5 points for our leaders, Lutz and Boyka. back in second place, 58 points. That's a 7.5 point gap with a possible 9 points up for grabs. And then just behind them, 58.5 points, so 8 points back. So still 3 teams can win the European title, but the way Lutz and Boyka are sailing right now, the odds of them coming last are very slim.
Let's have a look at the whole leaderboard here, and as they just pointed out, as Ben just pointed out, 6.5 points from Lutz Boyka to Dobson Tidy, and Dobson Tidy really salvaging something out of that really tough race, and they just haven't seemed to have any ability to keep it going well, but a 5th place by just not flipping over too many times. Yurchak and Lawrence with a 7th in that one, having flipped over a couple times. Just a half point, though, out of the silver position, and then, as you say, Ben, Gross and Klinge at 66, they are still mathematically in it.
So at 66 points, Gross and Klinge can still get onto a silver medal.
Sure.
And they'll, that'll be a fantastic finish for them. It would take the extremes of this finish to get that done. So 4 teams for medals, 3 teams for the gold or for the win.
And the only 2, if you look at the performance here, the 3 teams that haven't capsized, Hansen, Everson, Ida Marie, and Marie, and Lutz and Boyka. Those are the only teams that seem able to really handle these puffs, and everyone else is challenged, a little bit challenged.
Well, yeah, and that mid pack there between 4th place and 8th place after 15 races in the week is only 4 points apart. Becoming 4th or 8th in a European Championship does matter. So this race will mean something to almost all these teams in the fleet.
When you say mean something, it's not just about position and about bragging rights, but actually it's about funding and funding the next year of your racing. This is a very important championship for many of these national organizing groups and sailing teams, and how you do here can determine whether you have the funds to go and bring your coach somewhere or get housing or get airfare, right?
Even the M&As draw a lot of their funding from the results of the sailors, so it all matters. We just see the AP flag, and the 49er FX racing is over. They're sending them in.
That's it. AP over A for them, and so that's the 49er FX is done. The race committee has decided that half the fleet upside down is probably a good sign.
Yeah,
and I don't disagree with them.
Let's just get on the horn and just double check if they think if the 49er racing is still planned, or if they've blown off everything.
All right, I'll turn it back on here if I can get them. So.
My flag code isn't always 100%. I do know that the fleets have been sent to shore, but whether that includes the 49er fleet, I don't yet know. Alan checks that out. We can see the 49ers. We can see the 49er fleet are in the vicinity of the race area, and it doesn't look like they're going anywhere. So.
After 2 races, and I'm just considering the situation for the 49ers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Campbell James. TV out.
Well, that was we saw it was getting tough, and then it got tougher, Marcus. You did predict a little more wind coming in, but that was just the little bit that was too much for the fleet to handle. Congratulations go to Tina Lutz and Suzan Boyka, their first European Championship. What will they be thinking right now after so much defeat in the last few years and to come full circle?
I mean, they very much deserve winning this championship. They've put in so much work over the past years, and they were close to winning big championships before, never quite managed, and I'm very happy for them. It's a well-deserved win, and the performance today couldn't have been more impressive. I mean, these were the best 49er girls in the world, and they put in 2 bullets in a surprising way.
So congratulations to them. Also, just let's confirm the final placings here. Dobson and Tidy from Team GB, the British Sailing Team in second place by the smallest of margins, 58 points. And then in third place, our overnight leaders, Yursak and Lorenz. The conditions were just a little bit too much for them, and they fall down to the bronze position. Still a very good result for them, and no doubt they'll be happy with the week in general, even if they'd be wishing for a tiny bit more today. Alan, can you update us on the rest of the schedule? Are we still on board with the 49er?
Look, I just spoke, and I actually turned it on so that the folks at home could hear it, but I spoke to David Campbell James, our race officer for the 49ers and FXs, the Olympic race officer. Everyone knows CJ, and a great race officer. He said he's holding now. He's obviously sent the FXs in, but he's considering what to do with the 49ers. So I think he's having a look at these puffs and seeing probably watching the sailors sailing and seeing how they're handling it. That's probably what I would do in his situation, and he's going to update us as soon as he possibly can. But just to go back to the FXs for a second, the two things really that most stood out to me, first is how well the Japanese performed until today. They quietly just kept marching up the leaderboard and were knocking on the door of the medals, and I think that bodes really well for the next 3 years going into Tokyo. We know we're going to see a lot of resources thrown at these Japanese sailors. Japan very proud of its sailing traditions and heritage and beautiful seas and waterways. And so that's a good thing to see. I really like that, and they seem to have a really good attitude. And I wish their English was a little bit better, or my Japanese was a little bit better, but so be it. But to me, the biggest thing of this week was how Tina Lutz and Lutz and Boyka just won over thousands and thousands of fans, not just for this action, but everyone, and over 3,800 people have seen that interview already. Everyone who's seen that interview and then watched this racing will just go, "Oh, I like those girls."
You can't help but be a fan, can you?
They're amazing. They're talented. They're strong. They're plucky. They're smart, and they're beautiful. They have all these qualities, and Suzan is a good graphic designer too. So all these things, and I'm a fan. I hope you guys are too. Yeah, exciting stuff. And this is look, folks, you don't know this. This is my first ever 49er FX race working in the booth, and the energy in that FX fleet is just phenomenal. As a guy with a young daughter who hopes that in 10 or 15 years she'll get to play at some of these games, it's so refreshing to see. It's that women are not just able to compete in this sport in the same kind of disciplines that the men are, but able to excel and look incredible doing so. And this, any one of you who watched that race and said, "Oh, well, this is ridiculous, they're upside down," watch a 49er race from London. Watch that and tell me if you think that's any worse or any better.
Or Qingdao.
Or Qingdao.
We've all been upside down. There's not a skip sailor on Earth who hasn't, and no one would claim to. We got pictures of Burling straddling wings as he's trying to recover boats. It's just the way it is. You push yourself right to the limit and occasionally beyond it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Do it in a safe way, and keep your friends and as you're doing it, and that's why we go out and play these games. I do think that we're going to see the wind moderate just enough to get the 49er racing going. But
I think so as well. It
to
dropped off a little bit, just 2 to 3 knots. Currently 18, 19 knots out there. I think they should be racing.
Well, look, I'll tell you what, while we wait for a little bit of time to pass, let's talk about time. Spinnaker-watches.com, the special 49er limited edition Spinnaker watch on the back. Beautiful engravings of the 49er class logo, and they've got countdown timers and everything else.
And let me just say, it does matter if you buy these things. If you like our broadcasts, the money does come to the class, or at least a portion of it. If you're thinking about the Christmas present for your friend, if you like watching sailing, they like sailing, your crew deserves a treat for rolling the sails so well at the end of your Wednesday night series. Go onto the website, grab yourself some watches, and get to see more sailing.
It's a way to get a great product at a great price. Use Live25 and checkout. You get 25% off. It's also a great way to support sailing on the internet free with a great broadcast like this. And we don't do this with a $10 million America's Cup budget. We do this until the drone flies out of the sky and then it's gone. Maybe we'll buy another one in the morning. You know what I mean? We do the best we can, and we work real hard to bring you what you love, which is sailing. And this, to me, is some of the best sailing to watch of all. The energy, the people, the speed, the excitement, the athleticism, it's all here, and it's a privilege to be part of it. So spend a little bit of money and help make it happen some more. If you are part of a company inside the marine industry or outside of it, give us a shout, and we will let you know how your company can reach far more people and the right demographic that you want to. Hit this guy up over through the contact links at 49er.org.
Let's take a look at what that watch looks like so you know what you're getting yourself into. You won't be disappointed. just coming back to the live shots, we can see the committee boat there with all their flags flying. They've sent the 49er to shore. We're just listening. We're just talking to the race committee right now. Alan, if you can update us. So that is confirmation that the regatta is finished. They've canceled racing for the whole day. That means that our overnight leaders are going to claim the championship titles. We're going to get ready with the leaderboard to show you what's happened. And unfortunately, we're not going to see some of these skiff sailors apply their trade today. But nevertheless, we've had a great week of racing here, and the regular racing will have decided the title. You can go back and rewatch the replays from yesterday all over all of our channels, and this is confirmation of our title. Couldn't be closer between Fletcher and Bithell taking the title over Gilmore and Turner, just 1 point in it.
And I'm super upset, not because they're not racing. Look, you can see it out there. It's pretty hairball, and it's pretty hairball out there, folks. And I know we're all a little bit disappointed, but you can see, you know, with the forecast to actually continue to get worse and worse and decay. That's what David Campbell James told me. He said, look, we could send him in and wait, but there's no real likelihood the forecast is going to all of a sudden get better. We might have slight periods of downwind like right now, but overall the forecast degrading. So, but you can see, I really wanted to see this British versus Australian battle, you know, especially in the big breeze where we know the Western Australians love it. But Dylan Fletcher and Stu Bithell, they sailed a brilliant regatta. They had one bad day, and it looks like they were able to overcome it with a great performance yesterday. By contrast, Gilmore and Turner had a great regatta and then a bit of a poor day yesterday. So I think the right result was probably reached, but we'll get to see them square off again in not too much more time. Peters and Sterrett taking the bronze medal.
Yeah, so just to plug there, Alan, for our next championship, the 49er World Championship is in 3.5 weeks' time from Porto, Portugal. That's, will again bring you live broadcast racing from Big Seas, that Big Swell and Big Seas in Portugal. We were there for the 2015 Europeans, and they treated us wonderfully. Can't wait to go back. Marcus, what are you going to remember from this 49er racing that we saw yesterday?
Well, I was super excited to be part of it. Thanks for asking us to help you in the broadcast, and I'm obviously happy that it happened in my hometown. And what I'll remember is that it's a new age. That those new classes, the combination of these three classes, I think it is a super great mix. I envy them. I wish back when I was sailing it would have been that combination. I think they're in for a super exciting quad, and yeah, it'll be great to follow up to the Olympics in Tokyo.
Look, I just looking at the result before we sign off, and we had some on board there of David Gilmore. I think we had Gilmore and Scott both and Fletcher both wired, but it was pretty cool because they were training against each other right there with the poles as well, and looking great right now in this wind at 22 knots. But just looking at the results, you know, early in the week, you and I spoke about it, and you really felt that the poles had a lot to prove here, and they started to pull it together toward the end. Both the young poles, Buksak and Vizbici. There we go. Now we're looking at it. Looks like Gilmore, isn't it? Sure,
that's Gilmore and Turner right there. They're congratulating the Italians, or they're getting congratulations from the Italians and giving them a thank you.
And they looked like they were having a great time there on the wire, huh?
They're certainly sailing in, but no problem. They're not very far offshore right now,
exactly.
So the wind is definitely moderated from the race area. But yeah, if you're able to look over your shoulder and give high fives, it's definitely within your range.
But in this post Outeridge, post Burling era, it's post Martinez era. Things are looking really good if you're Australian or you're British right now. Not only you have the vets in Fletcher and Bithell, but Peters and Sterrett coming on very strong, and they're very young and very, very hungry. And, of course, David Gilmore, Joel Turner, absolutely blinding, and both 22 is Turner and 26 is Gilmore or something like that. So, you know, the future is super bright if you're from one of those two countries. Great job from Platzi and Tessé as well. And Bildstein and Hussel, you know, were solid in this regatta and very, very close to knocking on the door. But what about the Poles and what about the Germans? I mean, do they have what it takes going through the next cycle?
You know, this is the first test of many. Like you say, it's the post-Outeridge, post-Burling era, post-Jensen, post-Tuke. It's been a long time, or it's been, feels like a long time. 4 years of dominance from those teams, 8 years really if you stretch it out. And all these teams know that if they can get to the top of this fleet, they can take their sailing anywhere. There's going to be no shortage of work put in by these teams. Fletcher and Scott, Fletcher and Bithell, they've got the edge right now. They had the most experience left over. They trained the hardest through the winter, but all these teams have a chance to catch them, and it's going to take championships to really a few championships to see the whole mix. Just because the Poles here didn't have their best week doesn't mean anything just yet. And
we know who didn't have their best week is the two Latino teams, the Diego Botín and Iago Lopez from Spain, and then of course the Lange brothers from Argentina. So 10th and 11th, but I think both of them seriously underperformed and were a little rusty, and they're looking forward to getting another shot when this thing heads over to the other side of Europe.
And then a legend like Robert Scheid in the fleet. We're going to see something of him. You spoke of the Croatians, and we're going to wait for them. A lot can happen in the coming 3.5 years.
It's a great time to be in skiff sailing, that's for sure, not just because of all this, but because if you do really well, guess what? You might just get your ticket punched and have a career in the America's Cup or the Volvo Ocean Race. It's about half the fleets are coming out of this out of the 49ers right now. So I think great stuff from everybody, and to all you guys back home, thank you so much for watching. Keep entering the contest. We'll keep it running until the end of the day. And then we got awards. Maybe we'll try and stream them a little bit. I doubt we'll be able to, but we'll get some shots up for you from our great friends at Sailing Energy. And keep mashing that like button and that share button. Keep going all week long so we can get more views and more sponsors and bring you more live broadcasts. So for double Olympian. This is all
double Olympians.
This is all killing me. Marcus Bauer from right here in Kiel, Ben Remacher from Vancouver, and myself, Alan Block. It's been an amazing week at the 49er FX and Nacra 17 European Championship. We will see you soon on the other side of Europe.